Okay, it's official. We are up and running. So welcome everyone to the Fight and Revive election forecast. Whoops, that was me playing my own video back to make sure it's up. So welcome. Like I said just a second ago, we're going to cover the Senate races. I have Tyler Turner coming in here in just a moment to talk with us about the Senate races and even the presidential election. We're going to be covering for quite a few hours results from the presidential election, the swing states. We're going to be covering the Senate elections, the House, keying on some House races, watching the amendments, the ballot amendments going on around the state. So as you see on the screen, feel free to throw in some questions or comments in the live chat. We're up on YouTube and Facebook, so feel free to chip in your comments or questions, and we are going to go ahead now and go to Ty Turner. He is a director for Americans for Prosperity. I'm going to let Tyler correct me with my intro in case I don't get his exact title right, but he's been a local activist here in Lynchburg for several years now. He really knows what he's talking about. We're going to talk about the Senate races specifically and some other stuff as well. So let me go ahead and bring in Tyler. Tyler, you're on Fight and Revive. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
So man, how you doing?
Doing very well. Thank you for coming on. I've thrown it up on the screen now so viewers can see. We obviously have our battleground states, which won't start reporting quite yet, but obviously this night we're keeping a special eye on Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And I also mentioned just there in the banner, we'll also want to keep an eye on. We don't expect them to swing, but in a rare scenario, we just want to keep an eye on the results in Minnesota, New Mexico, New Hampshire, and Virginia as well. So what are you looking for here, just kind of as we get into it? What are you looking for as we get into the night? What are you watching for in the various swing states? Give us your thoughts on that.
First off, I want to apologize to anyone for all the background noise. I'm doing actually an event watch party here at my office in downtown Lynchburg, 819 Main Street across from the Bank of the James. If you have nothing else to do, come on, stop on by. I got some free food.
Here you go.
What I'm looking for is honestly Virginia's results are supposed to be coming out here in about 15 minutes.
Yep.
So I kind of want to see how it looks in Virginia. We're going to get into the House, but we have a couple pretty important House races that are kind of pretty 50-50, including one that currently is held by Abigail Spanberger, who's retiring from Congress.
Yep.
I want to see how Virginia looks. I just want to, and then obviously after that, really, how does the blue wall in the middle of America look? I'm from the blue wall. I'm from the one that's not going to win. That's Minnesota. While it looks a little more competitive than normal, I doubt Trump has a real good chance there. But I really want to see how Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin goes, and then obviously later on see how Arizona and Nevada looks.
Yep. Completely agree. So, yeah, you mentioned Virginia. We got our first round of poll closings tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern. We got Georgia, South Carolina, Virginia, and Vermont close. Most of Florida closes, and then we've got some of Indiana, Kentucky, and New Hampshire. Indiana and Kentucky have actually just started their results. I have it up here on the screen. Indiana and Kentucky, like I said, a little bit of those have actually already started reporting at 6 p.m. Trump obviously leading in those, 58% in Indiana, 68% in Kentucky. Obviously, he's going to lead those. He's going to win those. We're not even wondering about that. But we are going to keep an eye just on the results as they come in. Matter of fact, I'm going to just go ahead and put them up on the screen real quick. You see here, Indiana, 58% for Trump, Kentucky, 68%. So again, all to be expected, but that's the way things are going so far. So I mentioned, I kind of teed it up as you wanting to talk about this, as you would talk about the Senate races. So I would be interested to hear what you have to say about those. I know the one that looks most favorable to Republicans to flip, if you're not talking about West Virginia, because that's kind of assumed it's going to flip. So I should say the most watched one, most assumed to flip that should be somewhat competitive is out in Montana with Tim Sheehy versus John Tester. So what are you and AFP seeing out there? What do you think is going to happen as the night goes on?
Yeah, I think Montana is the one that we're definitely the prohibitive favorite. You never want to say that you have anything locked up, but polls show that she's considerably ahead. I also would look at Ohio. Bernie Monroe That's obviously a red state that Trump's going to win by 6, 7 points. It's a state that J.D. Vance won last election by 6 points over a sitting U.S. congressman. And so I look at Moreno, that being a good place that they could be able to flip that seat. But I wouldn't sleep on Eric Hovde in Wisconsin. He's a very popular businessman. He started decently well behind, but he's been catching up in the polls. I think he's a very good candidate. He's actually, and apologize, I've been battling a sickness here.
You're good.
But he's been catching up with Baldwin in recent polls. I would consider that pretty competitive. Wouldn't sleep on McCormick. Pennsylvania is a state that's actually leaning Trump right now, so that could give an advantage to McCormick. And then you also got some outlier states like Arizona, Nevada, and that are also pretty competitive.
Okay, got you. Well, I'm very interested to hear that you say that about McCormick in Pennsylvania and Hovde in Wisconsin. I'm thinking that probably the most competitive of the states might even be in Ohio. I'm just for a while I have thought that Montana and Ohio were probably going to have a fight, but win. I've not been real optimistic about Wisconsin or Pennsylvania. So what are you seeing in those two states? As I've noticed in the polling, these guys are starting to gain. What do you think if there is a late surge here from McCormick or Hovde? And I would say probably Wisconsin seems to be the more favorable to us due to the fact that Bob Casey's running in Pennsylvania. He's somewhat of an electoral juggernaut. So what do you think is the reason behind this kind of late surge for the Senate candidates in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I actually think Tammy Baldwin is actually fairly popular too. Casey just kind of hangs out underneath the banner and kind of stays out of harm's way. I think with Hovde, I think he's just a good candidate. He's a businessman. He's a Wisconsinite. He just is kind of that like every guy's kind of guy. I just think he's a really solid candidate from the beginning. And I think that's what makes him maybe the more viable. You would actually think Pennsylvania would be maybe the one that's the more viable option because right now, if you look at the market, Trump's up 59-41 in Pennsylvania while he's down right now in Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. So it seems less likely that Trump wins Wisconsin, more likely that he wins Pennsylvania. But I think right now I'd give a slight advantage to Hovde flipping Wisconsin, to McCormick flipping Pennsylvania, and I think that's because of Hovde himself. I think he's just a really strong candidate.
Okay, gotcha. So sticking with the theme of the Senate elections for a moment, here in Virginia, obviously we have Tim Kaine. He used to be governor. He's been senator forever. He was Hillary Clinton's vice presidential nominee. And it's not looking great for us, admittedly, with our nominee, Hung Tall. Most people call him Hung Kao. It's just how we Americans talk. I think technically you pronounce it Vietnamese, Hung Tall, doesn't matter. But the point being, he's been running a campaign down here. Unfortunately, here in Southwest Virginia, where we are, where his Republican votes are, we've not seen or heard a whole lot of him. He's been mostly in Nova. However, we have been seeing recently, thanks in large part to some private conservatives in the area, like Jim McKelvey, helping get his name out with signs, and just he's finally running TV ads in the area. Do you think it's enough from Cal for him to get a late push to come even close to winning this Senate seat against Tim Kaine, or is it just kind of, to be blunt, a lost cause?
My personal opinion?
Yeah.
Hate to be blunt with you folks, but I do not see this being a victory. Tim Kaine's obviously a former governor, has been a longtime senator, like you say, he ran for vice president. Hung Kao has never, held office. A lot of people still do not know who he is. He's a fine candidate. I'm not going to get into character assassinations, but I think that Tim Kaine is definitely going to be tough to beat for that one. That's not a race that I think Republicans can really count on, in my opinion.
Gotcha.
Everyone's allowed to have their own.
Yeah, hey, yeah, it'd be great to be wrong, right?
Pick the upset, man.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, if he wins Virginia, we're going to see a legit red wave that we didn't get in 2022, but that's not expected. It's just a slight possibility. Sticking with the theme here of Virginia, but moving over to the presidential race, I know you mentioned it a little bit there at the top, but see there being even a slight chance of Trump winning the state, and so do you see there's a chance that he wins, and what do you think the margin will be like realistically, I guess I should say, what is your official prediction for Virginia?
I mean, if Trump wins Virginia, this is going to be an absolutely great night for Donald Trump. I mean, you can wrap this up in a bowl and you can throw and you can put it in the old, underneath the Christmas tree. But I don't think he wins it. I think he's more competitive than he was last time. The polls have been a little bit all over the place, right? So you have had certain polls that actually had Trump within 1, 2 points. I think I saw a poll like 2 weeks ago that had even, but then you've seen polls as high as 10 and 11 points. I think it falls somewhere in between there. It's just hard with Northern Virginia for Trump to win.
Yeah,
He just does not do good at all up there. I mean, he's not even really competitive.
yeah,
So even if he dominates the rest of the state, Southern, Central, out in the Tidewater and all that, which I think is still going to be a little more difficult. You know, if he gets within 5 points, I consider that a pretty good night in Virginia. That's just my personal opinion. Once again, um, who knows? This is kind of, I don't know if we're political junkies, the people that are really invested in this stuff. It's kind of is kind of like, what is going to happen? You never know. What is going to be the major upset? What's something that all the experts and all the mainstream pollsters, where did they get it wrong? And I'm kind of curious because I think somewhere tonight we're going to be like, really? He won New Hampshire?
that would be fantastic.
I mean, the Libertarian Party in New Hampshire came out and endorsed him. I mean, so it's like something like that would be like a real shocker to me. And obviously, we want the shocks to be on the good way. We don't want to be the shocks in the bad way, where it's like, oh my gosh,
Right,
he
right.
lost Florida. I'm just kidding. No, no, or something crazy. Oh, Ted Cruz. My goodness, he's losing Texas.
Ooh, not
But
good.
yeah, I know. So we want the good. We want all the good upsets to happen the same way. And I really do. I did a prediction episode here at our office with James Black from Standing for Freedom Center. He was actually going to be on here. He had to go encourage kids to stay in line at Liberty University. So he's doing a good thing. And Colby Miller, he works for me, and he's also part of the Bedford committee. Um, we all predicted really, really good results. Colby, he believes that we win 55 Senate. We end up walking away. Kerry Lake wins to go along
Wow.
with Abdi McCormick, Moreno, and Sheehy. So we're pretty. I think we're pretty. I think our expectations are pretty high. Is that kind of scary? Because anytime you have high expectations, every single loss you might take a little more seriously. But I think there's going to be some good things that are going to happen tonight. And more than anything, what are we going to do if it is a good night? What are we going to do with it?
So, on that note, actually, I did kind of want to ask you just your opinion on this, and this is not directly related tonight, but while we're still waiting for results to come in, the first result, like I said, I have here going on the ticker at the bottom of the screen. 7 p.m. is our first major round of poll closings. A little bit's already closed, like I said, in Kentucky and Indiana, but we got Georgia, South Carolina, Virginia, and Vermont. Polls will completely close along with most of Florida. I guess actually I was going to ask a different question, but how do you think Trump will perform in Florida? Do you think it'll come anywhere close to the DeSantis like 18, 19-point margin of last year? Or and how, I guess I would ask, what range are you looking at to tell you how good it is? So basically, if he only wins by 5, you're like, oh, this isn't going to be a good night. If he wins by 10, you're like, oh, this is going to be a great night. What are those numbers looking like for you in your mind?
Yeah, man, Florida, because he's not polling that high. I mean, he's polling in that like 5 to 8 range, right?
Hmm.
So it would seem that it would fall in those margins. Of what did he win last? What did he win over Biden? Was it
I think it's
3
about
or
4
4?
points. Yeah,
Okay.
3.84, something like that. That's what I
There's
was
no
reading.
way he's doing what DeSantis did in 2022.
Yeah, I agree.
There is no way. And I know you all like Ron DeSantis, and I've always been. I think he's the best governor in America. Uh, no, he's not even doing that. So I can safely say that if he wins by, I mean, if he wins by like 8, 9 points in Florida, that's a really good night. My prediction's like probably about 6. I think I'm gonna go a little better. So if he won 3 or 4 the last time, I think he's gonna win by 6, 7. So basically double that. But I think that's the margin. But I could be wrong.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's kind of the way I was thinking. Now, so what I wanted to ask you about here is we're waiting on these first results to come in. And I won't keep it too much longer. Once James gets there, feel free to shoot me a text, and we'll get you all both back on. So, but I won't keep you much longer. I know you're at your watch party. So, what do you think? As we're waiting for those results to come and just kind of generically campaigning, obviously one of the hallmarks, for better or worse, of Trump's campaign has actually been his abortion stance or lack thereof.
Yep.
Do you think that's kind of helped him in these areas like a Wisconsin, where typically a pro-life candidate will do better in your Arizona, Georgia area, where it's more religious typically, and typically in your Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, a strong pro-life stance doesn't do you a whole lot of good, but at the same time you can't demoralize your own pro-life base but so much, which is some of what I've heard. So what do you think? Was Trump right to take this kind of tactic of, we're going to leave it in the states and not really do much more beyond that and just kind of go radio silence on it? What do you think about that and for Republicans going forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me personally, uh, there's no more important issue than the right to life issue, and because without life, what is it? Why does anything else matter? And as a Christian and someone who believes strongly that all creation is created in the image of God, that us infringing upon the life and liberty of that individual is diabolical. It's wrong. It's evil. So on a personal level, I think I have a very strong stance on it. I'm absolutely 100% against the taking of the unborn, the lives of the unborn. And I believe that the Republican Party should stand strong with that. And I think to waver on it is to almost dehumanize the unborn. Because if you believe that they are human life, I truly believe, because they're created in the image of God, then there's no other stance but 100% support of defending the unborn from conception to the grave. That being said, obviously this issue is not in favor. Most people do not have that worldview, and we have a cultural problem when it comes to this specific issue. Therefore, it's obviously one party campaigns all the time on women's rights, reproductive rights, women's rights. And the reason why they're doing it is because it's in their favor, because they know that they actually have the majority on this issue. And it becomes very difficult for me to, because me personally, I just could never. I'm going to take a stand on truth, because at the end of at the end of the day, I stand before God, right, in the judgment seat of Christ, and that I honor Him before men. So I see it very much from a very black and white perspective. But a political figure, maybe someone that doesn't even know Christ on that kind of level, or is at least being advised to go a different way. I guess the more viable path is to take a more moderate position and to maybe run towards, hey, it's back to the states. We overturned Roe v. Wade. This was a victory for the Constitution. It was a victory by the Supreme Court. And every state can decide for themselves. And that's kind of the position Donald Trump has. It probably honestly is his worldview too. I don't think he's very strong on that issue, as well, in my opinion. I think, yes, for people that are more moderate on the issue and they care more about the economy, they care more about like issues around that, then it makes him more like, well, he's not an extremist on this issue would be one argument that I'd have. Another argument is that it does impact a very evangelical world. People with strong from the evangelical community that have a strong philosophical Christian worldview that believe that this is the most evil thing that's happened in the last century in the world, let alone America and in the West. That, yeah, some of them will pause to maybe vote for Donald Trump to do it. Now, I don't have that position. My position is that you have two parties and only one of them is going to. Okay, so you have two parties, and those two parties, one of them is going to hold power. And we know the position of the Democratic Party. And on that issue, it is absolutely extreme. They actually run on it to try to win. They will try to run on something that I think is actually heinous to win elections. Therefore, the most viable option, not just that issue, but religious liberties, the rule of law, all very other strong Christian um, perspectives are also in favor of the Republican Party. So I do think it's vital for Republicans, for Christian conservatives to still support Donald Trump for this coming election, because at the end of the day, his point of view is more in line with Christian worldview, while not perfect. Did I answer that? I went on a long road on that.
Yes, you did. So I'm gonna let you go here in just a second. I just want to mention it's 7 o'clock. News stations can or news outlets can officially start calling, and we've got our first couple. Kentucky and Indiana called for Trump to no one's surprise. Vermont called for Harris immediately. No surprise there. Right now, we're at a 58-41 margin for Trump in Indiana, 71-28 in Kentucky. Harris haven't even started receiving results from there yet, but it's obvious which way that's going to go. So I'm following New York Times. They typically have the fastest results. So we're going to keep an eye on it. I'm going to start updating the ticker here and everything at the bottom because polls have closed in our in Virginia, in Georgia, in South Carolina, and in most of Florida, as well as Vermont. And we already mentioned Kentucky and Indiana. So the states have already been called. So we're off ready to go, raring and ready to go. That puts us at, make sure I get this right. Yeah, 19 electoral votes for Trump, 3 for Harris. Could very well be a long night. Last question I'll ask before I let you go for now is, do you think we will know tonight or early this morning, I should say?
Uh, Going back to the last couple elections when we didn't seem to know for a long period and it seemed to take days, specifically on the West Coast, Nevada, Arizona, states like that. And will we know the results of the presidential? I find it highly unlikely tonight. Will we know the results of the House? No, we won't. Because it's also California and Washington, Oregon. There's battleground races. The Senate, we might. I think there's a pretty good possibility we'll know if we took the Senate. Tim Sheehy, Bernie Moreno, I think that'll be known tonight. So Senate, yes. Presidential, probably not. House, no way.
Yeah, I agree. Ohio is closed at 7:30, if I recall correctly, and so we should know before too long if not Tim Sheehy, he's in Montana. If Bernie Moreno comes out over top of Sherrod Brown in Ohio. So, Ty, thanks for coming on. We can have you back on later in the evening, I hope, as we start to get to some results. Obviously, battleground states we're not going to know for a while. We've got plenty of time. I'm going to keep going here. So I'm going to let you get back to your watch party, though, and then I'll keep you keep me updated, I should say, as the night goes on. We'll be in contact.
All right, thanks, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Okay, well, folks, that was Mr. Tyler Turner. Again, he is with Americans for Prosperity. I'm just going to read you as we exit here a little bit about Tyler, so when he comes back on, you know more about him and kind of know his credentials. He does host, and I forgot to mention this, a podcast called Politically Uncensored. Obviously, like I mentioned, he's a local activist here in the Lynchburg area, married with 4 kids. Sorry, I lost my track there. But yeah, Politically Uncensored is the podcast. I'm actually going to go ahead and pull that up here so y'all can go and give him some support. Politically Uncensored podcast series. I use Spotify generally, so I'm just going to pull it up here. And if you'll give me just one moment. Yeah, so Tyler, again, he is the Adam Boyer before Adam Boyer was cool, although some would argue Adam Boyer is currently not cool with Fight and Revive. So anyway, I will try to pull up that podcast for him later. For now, we're going to update the ticker because big announcements. Again, if you missed it, Kentucky and Indiana have been called for Trump to no one's surprise. Polls have partially closed in Kentucky and Indiana. Vermont polls have closed. There aren't even any results in yet, but it has been called for Kamala Harris. That's not at all surprising. So we're going to go ahead, pardon me there, we're going to go ahead and update that to reflect latest poll closings are indeed Georgia, South Carolina, Virginia, Vermont. Those states have completely closed. We are starting to get some results here, so let's take a look at this. Florida, per New York Times, and I will say New York Times reports on things really fast. I'm not entirely sure how accurate they are. We don't know exactly what's coming in first, but right now, Florida, they're saying already has 30% of the votes in. We already have, what is that? That's over 3.3 million votes in, and that is Trump up by 2 over Harris. So definitely not what we want to be seeing already in the evening early on. But again, New York Times can be a little bit spotty. I'm going to be checking, cross-checking New York Times with some other sources as well, because again, New York Times tends to be very fast, but they're not always the most accurate. Sometimes they backtrack. So we're going to keep an eye on those throughout the evening. I'm going to go ahead and cross-check that here. If you'll bear with me for just a moment. And again, we're looking at the Senate race throughout the night as well. Montana and Ohio are the big ones. I'll throw that back up on the screen so you can see our Senate races. Montana, West Virginia, Ohio, Arizona, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada. We talked when Tyler was here about my home state of Virginia. There's a Senate race. Unfortunately, Tim Kaine's going to cruise to victory in that one. As far as the presidential race goes, it's going to be very, very interesting to see what all happens, because in some states, like I mentioned here, let me put this back up. Keep an eye on Minnesota, New Mexico, New Hampshire, and Virginia. Once we get an idea of how Florida and Georgia are going, we will then have an idea what we might expect from the rest of the country. And Virginia is going to be a little bit of a telltale state, because if Trump comes within, I would say, 2 to 3 points in Virginia, I believe Tyler said he comes in with 3 points or less, in his opinion, it's going to bode really well for the rest of the races around the country. So again, polls have closed in some of these early states. We're going to check out here what we've got going on in Florida. We have another update from Florida. You see here, Trump leading by 351 to 48. I'm not exactly sure what's coming in first yet as far as the reports, as far as what is reporting first. I would imagine with those totals, we've got a lot from Florida cities. I doubt it's Miami-Dade, because I don't think that's going to go for Trump. It went for DeSantis in 2022. I don't think that's going to go for Trump this time. But it's probably a not quite as left-leaning city and some urban areas that are starting for Florida. Obviously, you see that we do barely start to have results for Georgia. A couple rural localities, precincts starting to report. Trump up 9 points. That doesn't mean anything right now when we have less than 1% of the vote in. Again, that's just rural localities already, localities getting in their low vote totals quickly. Not at all surprising to see that happen. Indiana and Kentucky, we mentioned, are called. Polls have not completely closed in those states, I don't believe. I think they have, some of them have closed, some of them not, but they've already been called. Indiana, 61% for Trump, 37% for Harris. Kentucky, Trump's at 70%, which is impressive in my mind. And then Vermont, nothing reporting yet, but Harris, it has been called for her. No surprise there. So I'm going to see if we can pull up some more reporting here. And I'm going to get you the latest reports to see what is reporting where. So let's see what we got. And my feed is a little bit messed up, so I'm going to see if I can get this in order. There we go. I am trying to find out what what we have in terms of where is reporting in Florida first. Let's go back over here. You see Florida, Trump now expands his lead to 4 points. That's probably, I'm guessing, your more rural precincts starting to come in. Keep in mind, too, that right now it's like this much. If you see what I'm doing with my cursor here, about this much of Florida has closed in terms of the poll closings. This western half of the panhandle, which should be reasonably good for Trump, have not closed yet. The polls have not closed yet. They're not reporting yet. Rest of the state, Trump already over 2 million votes. It's a 4-point lead. And I'm guessing you're going to see that throughout the night. I'm guessing you're going to see roughly a 6-point lead for Trump. And so I think that once the night's over and all the votes have been cast, I think you'll see roughly a 6-point lead for him. So I want you all to go down to the comments and tell me, as we wait for some more results to come in, tell me what you think. And I'm going to go ahead and put this as a pinned comment here. Who's got it? Just let me know. I'll throw that up on the screen. Who is going to win this thing? You can tell me your Senate predictions. You can tell me your presidential predictions. And I'll throw it up on the screen if I can here. I want to know who's going to win. And I am going to go down here real quick and check. So while y'all are typing that, I'm going to check and see what we have for Amendment 4 in Florida. Obviously, they're trying to keep that under 50%. And right now, we are at 59.1% in Florida. So Florida's Amendment 4 creates a constitutional right to abortion. As it's explained, this proposed amendment to Florida's Constitution would prohibit laws restricting abortion before fetal viability or when necessary to protect a pregnant woman's health. In reality, it's much more radical than that. It's a kill 'em all amendment, as Steve Dace has called them. It is, some real radical stuff and just evil stuff. They're trying to get abortion legalized up until I believe it's the mid-20 weeks. So DeSantis has been actively campaigning. They've been spending money, conservative groups down there, trying to keep Florida from passing it. Unfortunately, those similar types of amendments are probably going to pass all around the country, even near conservative places like I think South Dakota has one, maybe Nebraska, Missouri. But in Florida, now, again, I do expect the results to kind of trend more toward Trump, and then you would think more pro-life as the evening goes on there. But with Amendment 4 in Florida, we do have 59.1% say yes. They need 60% for the constitutional amendment to pass. So we are on pace there to keep them under. Obviously, you'd like to see it defeated by more than that. Now, the other big one, which is Florida's Amendment 3, which is another big one that's been keeping an eye on. People have been keeping an eye on, legalizes recreational marijuana for people 21 and older, and that's only at 57% yes, 43% say no. So it's kind of ironic that we can't keep the we can't get 60% of the voters right now. We're barely getting 60% of the voters, keeping them from protecting the right of babies to live, but we can get a little more than that to decide that, yeah, they don't want people smoking weed, but that's just the crazy world we live in right now. Chris says, hey, Chris, he says, Trump and the Republicans grab the Senate, Dems get the House. That's my prediction. And I actually would tend to agree. I think Trump, as of now, I'm cautiously optimistic, though I don't really want to be optimistic because then I'll be disappointed. But I do think right now Trump gets the presidency. My final election map prediction I put out on the channel yesterday, I had Trump taking all the swing states except for Michigan, I believe it was the one I had him not taking. And so I do think Trump will get the presidency right now if it's legit. I think the Senate, we're going to come out of this with a bare minimum of 52%. That is what I would think will get bare minimum of 52%. Or 52 seats, I should say, in the Senate. And then the House, it's just a toss-up in my mind. I really have no idea. So you see we got more updates coming in. Florida, we're at 41% per this is for the Senate race, sorry. In Florida, we have Rick Scott. I'm going to toggle a minute from the presidential race to go to the Senate race. Rick Scott against Debbie McCarcel Powell. I always mispronounce her name. I'm trying to pronounce her name correctly. But he is leading by 5 there, 52 to 47. That is where Rick Scott is leading. He should be safe in Florida in his seat. It'll be a little bit closer than it should, but he does indeed lead it. Indiana, Jim Banks is going to win his Senate election, no question. Bernie Sanders is going to win his seat in Vermont. That's no question. Back to the presidential race here. We have our first results from Virginia, and Trump does lead 59 to 41, 5,000 votes to Harris's 35. Don't get too excited if you're seeing this, folks. This is just very early voting. We have less than 1% of Virginia's projected vote coming in. Do not get at all excited about that. This is rural precincts like the one I was poll watching at today, reporting their low vote totals first. Trump's going to lead. Republicans always do lead at first in Virginia. Then the Democrats catch up when you start getting vote dumps from places like Loudoun and Albemarle up in Nova. So Georgia, we do have a quick update from Georgia. We got a 4,000 vote lead there for Harris, which translates to 3%. Again, 3% of the expected vote total. Again, you don't like to see that early on, but it's just way, way too early to make any predictions about that at all. It's a 4,000 vote difference. We don't even know what's reporting there. I'll try to get you an update on what is reporting from where. But yeah, that's what we're seeing in Georgia right now. Florida's up to 45% report already, if this is indeed accurate, as New York Times says it to be. Trump's up 7. That's much more like what I'm expecting. I'm going to check Google's here just because that's what's right in front of me. They have 44% as well, and Trump is up by just shy of 6%, give or take. So that's what we have there in Florida. I'm going to check Amendment 4 again, see how we're doing there, getting live results. Amendment 4, as I said, we're starting to get more conservative results from Florida, and it is dropping. We're down to 58.6% yes on Amendment 4. We really need Amendment 4 to fail in Florida. It's probably going to pass. Those types of amendments are probably going to pass everywhere else around the country, so we really need it to fail there. And then it looks like Amendment 3 is probably going to go down early on. 56% say yes to Amendment 3 in Florida. So it looks like that's probably going to fail, but I don't know. We're going to see. We'd like Amendment 3 and 4 both to fail. I'm going to check on the Senate results here, make sure we're not missing anything. We have another update from Florida. Man, these guys, Ron DeSantis runs a tight ship down in Florida. Just talking about him with Ty, man. 2028 DeSantis, but that's neither here nor there. Rick Scott has increased to a 7-point lead in Florida with 52% of the estimated votes in. He leads by roughly 400,000 votes. In Virginia, Hong Kao out to a early lead over Tim Kaine. That's not going to last. Fear not, Dems watching this live stream. I doubt there are any, but if there are, fear not, Tim Kaine's going to win this. Not to be a pessimist, it's just going to happen. In Georgia, there you go. Trump has taken the lead. We have an update. 51% for Trump, 49% for Harris, with 3%, again, of the estimated votes in. It doesn't mean a whole lot right now, but lest you panic, there you go. Trump's back on top in Florida. Not at all surprising to see. So, thank you for joining again. We do have several viewers in here, so thank you for that. Again, let me know, who do you think's got it? Thank you, Chris, again, for commenting. He said he thinks Trump and the Republicans win the Senate and the presidency. Dems get the House. The House is a toss-up in my mind. I hope later in the evening to have James White on to discuss the House races, because he's followed those very closely. He's an expert on it. He knows what he's talking about. So I will let you know as the night goes on with that. I'm going to go ahead here and pause for just a moment to update our ticker and the latest poll closings, let you know what's up next at 7:30. So give me just a moment here. I will be right back. And just like that, told you I'd be back quickly. Ohio, West Virginia, and North Carolina are closing at 7:30. So these are our next poll closings. We're going to go ahead and leave up the latest poll closings. And we're going to go ahead, whoops, my bad. Leave the latest poll closings up, and we're going to add that the next poll closings are, again, Ohio, West Virginia, and North Carolina. Let's see how that looks on our ticker here. We'll go ahead and get that going here on the bottom. There you go. Next poll closings. And I'll go ahead real quick, one more before we get that really rolling. I'll go ahead and just add in parentheses 7:30 p.m. Eastern is our the time that these polls close. 7:30 p.m. Eastern, Ohio, West Virginia, North Carolina. Obviously, we expect West Virginia to be heavy Trump, heavy Jim Justice for Senate, which will put the Republicans back at 50 seats in the Senate. North Carolina, huge battleground state to keep an eye on. Georgia, huge battleground state to keep an eye on. Ohio, Trump is going to win. The big thing to watch in Ohio is how well does Bernie Moreno do, and does he come out on top? My bad, sorry. That is, does he come out on top? Does he beat Sherrod Brown? And if so, by how much in Ohio? If West Virginia goes Republican in the Senate and Sherrod Brown loses in Ohio, then there you go. It's game over. Republicans control the Senate because Republicans are not going to lose any of the seats they currently hold. Check back out our presidential election map here. 54% in from Florida per New York Times. Trump up by 7. That's about what me and Ty had predicted. South Carolina just started reporting. Trump up there. Georgia, Trump now up 4 points. Again, only 3% in though. Virginia, rural precincts reporting. And Trump is up there. Doesn't mean a whole lot right now. One state to keep an eye on. And again, you don't get too excited here as you see 61% for Trump. New Hampshire, rural precincts report first with little vote totals and conservative margins. So don't get too excited. Keep an eye on New Hampshire, though. New Hampshire early in the evening, if it goes to Trump, then we're going to see probably a clean sweep of the swing states across the map for Donald Trump. So go ahead, get in the comment section, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on YouTube. Thank you for joining us. Go ahead and jump in the comment section and let me know who you think is going to come out on top here in this presidential election race. We're a little bit of a lull here with the results. I'm going to keep you updated as fast as I can, as reliably as I can. Mentioned Amendment 4 in Florida. We really want that to fail. They need 60%. Right now they're at 58.5. No is at 41.5. We just have to keep them under 60. And right now DeSantis and the intrepid work of the Republicans there have kept Florida's Amendment 4 under 60%. Amendment 3 is the other big one to watch. Legalizes weed, basically, and that is at 55%. So we should be okay on Amendment 3 in Florida. And the reason I keep mentioning Florida is because that's received a lot of attention. As far as the Senate races goes, quick update on the Senate. Let me go ahead and put my Senate graphic up on the screen here. There you go. The crucial Senate races we're watching tonight: Minnesota, West Virginia, Ohio. Sorry, Montana, West Virginia, Ohio. All those should flip. And I'm realizing I said MN there, which is for Minnesota. MT, it should be for Montana. But Montana right here, West Virginia, Ohio. We're hoping all three of those flip. They should all three flip to the GOP. Then the true swing ones, toss-ups to watch, are Wisconsin, Arizona, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada. Although it currently seems Arizona and Nevada are tilting toward the Dems. So let me see here. Make sure I'm not missing anything. That would be, hold up just a moment here. We got more updates, Pennsylvania moment. U.S. Senate race, Tim Scott up 7 in Florida. Hung Cao does currently lead in the Senate race in Virginia. Doesn't mean a whole lot, though. So we are not paying too much attention to that. Right off rip. Again, rural precincts always report first, and the conservative, it'll always have the most conservative margins. The rural little precincts with their small totals. So let me just check out here, make sure we're up and running everywhere. We are indeed. Again, 7:30. We are 6 minutes away from polls closing in Ohio, West Virginia, North Carolina. We've started to get results, and it's going to get crazy as the night goes on, folks. Just to let you know what I do have planned for the rest of the night. Fight and Revive guest analyst Andrew Rousseau. He currently is in elected office. He does serve on the Campbell County Water and Soil Conservation Board. Not that that is qualifications for national political prognostication, but he is currently elected member of the Campbell County Water and Soil Conservation Board, so son of a former supervisor for us here in Campbell County, and he does follow politics very closely. So we're going to have hopefully him on later in the evening. Guest analyst, we hope to have Tyler Turner back. He was on to start the broadcast, so we hope to have him back very soon. James White should hopefully be with him to talk hopefully about the Senate races especially. So, and I'm sorry, I don't know why I was saying James White this whole time. It's ironic I should say that because his name is James Black. I keep saying James White. I don't know why I had that in my mind. I think it's because I know someone else named James White. So it's ironic, Freudian slip, dare I say so. James or Tyler, if you're watching this, I apologize, but that was quite the Freudian slip from me. James Black is his name. I got him mixed up with someone else in my mind. Again, moving on. So James and Tyler should hopefully be back on with us later in the evening. Feel free to make fun of me in the comments. Perfectly warranted. He should be back on. Andrew should be on. And I hope to, now this is pending, but I hope to have Delegate Eric Zare on in the evening, later in the evening as well, as results continue to roll in. He has currently been poll watching at a precinct, a big one here in Campbell County. Yes, Chris, there you go. Yes, I did get that wrong. But yeah, he's currently poll watching, so we hope to get him on, but he could be there late. When you're poll watching, when the polls close, you have to be there until the results are reported and they're cleaning up and leaving. So it may be a little bit later, but we do hope to have him on. We'll take a couple quick breaks here in the stream. We're not going to stream straight now from 7 to 11 p.m. or 12 p.m. or 12 a.m. or whenever it is. So we do hope to have several more interviews as the night goes on. You've seen Luke Boyer on here, my cousin, another guest analyst on Fight and Revive, and we hope to have him on shortly as well. But again, he is also he's not poll watching. He is an election officer this year, working officially for Campbell County, and I really do appreciate the great work that he's doing with and really all the election officers are doing. I keep saying, I apologize. I know that's annoying to hear. I'm trying to keep up with everything on the screen. But Campbell County has done a great job this year of getting poll workers, poll watchers, and election officers together to keep a tight ship and run things smoothly and fairly. So I do appreciate that, and I want to shout them out. Florida now. I'm going to get back to the screen here. Hold on just a moment. Here we go. Florida, we are currently at 64%. Trump leads by 7. Florida's looking very good for him. Tyler mentioned when he was on, if Trump's winning by the 6 to 7 point range, he's going to consider that pretty confident. A good sign for the rest of the night. Trump is doing well there, performing a little bit above polling expectations. 53 to 46% currently in Florida, 4% in Georgia is what we have in of the expected vote total. Trump leads 52 to 48 in Georgia. Probably rural, mostly precincts coming in. South Carolina, Trump up early. 2% in Virginia. Trump and Harris basically tied. You're going to see all sorts of mix. Again, Trump's probably going to lead early in Virginia, my home state where I am now. He will probably lead early in Virginia. We'll see some back and forth through them. And then near the end of the night, Harris will likely pull away as Albemarle, Loudoun, and the rest of Nova report, maybe even Virginia Beach. New Hampshire, 2% of the votes in. Harris leads by 3, about a 700 vote margin to be expected. U.S. Senate race, Tim Kaine narrowly leads Hong Kong right now. Interesting. Me and Tyler mentioned that he was probably going to Hung Kao is probably going to lose by a lot. Just speaking personally, his opinion, I agree. I think at this point, Hung will be lucky to keep it under 5-point loss, maybe more like a 7 or 8-point loss, unfortunately. But Trump it'll be interesting to see how far he trails behind Trump because, again, Trump's not going to win Virginia. But look right now, Harris currently leads Trump. Whoa, okay, we just got a vote dump. There you go. So that my point was going to be that Hung is trailing far behind Trump right now. We just got a vote dump, though, and Harris up on Trump by 21 right now in Virginia, the presidential race. Again, not at all surprising. We'll see this go back and forth. It'll even out as the evening goes on. In the Senate race as well, Kaine narrowly leading. Rick Scott up in Florida by 7. We're going to check in on Amendment 4 again. So if you hold on for just a moment here. Amendment 4 is at 59.2% in Florida. We're just trying to keep it under that 60% threshold that they need to pass. So we're really hoping that Amendment 4, the Kill 'Em All Amendment, the abortion amendment in Florida, stays under 60%. And then Amendment 3, which is legalizing weed. We want to keep an eye on both of these to see how the rest of the country might go, is only at 56%. That one is likely to fail. So that's good. And it is official now. Well, it's about to be official 7:29. And the polls are going to close in Ohio, West Virginia, North Carolina. We're going to get these polling, these locations closing. We're going to go ahead and edit our ticker here. So if you hold on for just a moment here, polls closing in. Polls closing in at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Ohio, West Virginia, North Carolina. Latest poll closing is again at 7 p.m. Our first poll closings were Georgia, South Carolina, Virginia, and Vermont, first to close in full. Those are our biggest batches. So let's head back over here. And if y'all will hold on for just a second, we have 33 viewers in here right now. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. While I am texting Ty back here, I'm going to communicate with him. Well, hold on. We're actually going to hold on that for just a second because West Virginia was just called for Donald Trump. Not at all surprising. Polls have closed. It's 7:30. There you go. I'm going to throw that up on the screen. West Virginia has been called for Trump. We have Ohio, West Virginia, North Carolina closing. North Carolina and Ohio are huge to watch right now. Trump must win both if he's going to win the presidency tonight. West Virginia called for Trump. We're going to go over here. I doubt we even have any results reporting yet. Jim Justice race has been called for him as well, which means the GOP is at 40 seats in the House, in the Senate right now. When you factor in the Democrat incumbents winning and the Republican incumbents winning, which should all happen, Republicans only need to flip one seat to get it to 50-50. Jim Justice has flipped it in West Virginia. So now we're waiting on Ohio and Montana. And I'm going to go ahead and put the crucial Senate races back up so y'all can see that. Again, MN, that should be Montana, not Minnesota, West Virginia, Ohio, Wisconsin, Arizona, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada. Those are the Senate races we're watching. I'm going to go ahead and just real quick update that. Crucial Senate races. we're watching Montana, West Virginia. I'm going to go ahead and add that it was called for justice. West Virginia, Ohio, Wisconsin, Arizona, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada. There you go. And I just want to say real quick, I want to have as much interaction with y'all as possible and see what y'all are thinking for these various races. Let me know what you think about the amendments in Florida. This doesn't have to be your predictions. It can just be how you currently feel about them. Do you think the amendments are going to pass in Florida? Do you think Trump's going to win the presidency? Who do you think is going to control the Senate? In what races? Who do you think is going to control the House? How do you see Virginia going? If you're here in Virginia, just let me know. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, just drop a comment, and I'm going to try to respond to as many as I can. I love when live streamers will have interaction with their audience, and I'm trying to do that for y'all. So if you're interested, drop a comment as well. Florida, we're at 71%. Trump now leads by 9 in Florida. So it's looking very good for Trump in Florida. You see there, we just got another vote dump, 9 points. Trump leading there in the U.S. Senate election there. Rick Scott leads by 8 points, so he's only trailing Trump by a little bit. Amendment 4 in Florida, we currently have 58.6% say yes, so it still failed if that's where it ends. Just shy 56% on Amendment 3, which is the legalizing weed. Presidential election, we have West Virginia, Kentucky, Indiana, called Vermont, called for Harris. So we're going to go ahead here and let's go ahead and edit our banner. We mentioned these are our battleground states. We're going to go ahead. We have polls closing next, and with that ticker, I'm going to take it off the screen for a moment. Current electoral vote count. We're going to update it so we have it going on our ticker down here. Current electoral vote count. Trump is at, let me double check and make sure, right? And this is in terms of called votes. This is not official electoral votes, of course. This is in terms of called. Kentucky, West Virginia, and Indiana give him 23. Vermont gives Harris 3. So Trump is at 23 and Harris is at 3. And I'm going to leave those poll closings up. Polls closed, and we're going to update that now to polls closed in Ohio, West Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina, Virginia, Vermont. And we're going to go ahead and update some more of the poll closing. So while I'm doing that, drop your comments in the comment section. I'm going to see if I can reply to them while I'm updating this ticker here. So hold on with me here for just a moment while I edit all the closings. And I'm not, let me make sure I added Kentucky and Indiana have closed as well. Kentucky, Indiana, I believe all of Florida has closed, but let me double check that. No, 8 o'clock. So we are caught up. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that is all the current closed polls, and we won't have this on the ticker the whole time. Of course, all the polls closed. We'll just keep an eye on that for now. And Dan says Harris is the most corrupt. Worse than Biden. I bet they cheat to win 100%. I can't say I disagree. We'll see what happens. I'm not entirely sure. As I've said many times on the channel, I have a very controversial opinion, which I please neither side, which with is I make neither side happy because I say I'm not sure if Harris is going to win, and I say I'm not sure. Or I'm sorry, I got completely sidetracked there. I was thinking about something completely different in my mind. I'm sorry. Back on track. I'm not sure Biden won in 2020 legitimately. I'm not sure Trump won in 2020 legitimately. Obviously, Trump may have won. If it was stolen for Biden. But the fact is, Trump was very unpopular. No problem, Dan. Don't worry about it. No big deal. Yeah, so if Trump won in 2020, it was very close. It was close enough to cheat, which it shouldn't have been, running against Biden. But I'm not convinced there was enough widespread fraud in order to actually tip the election. There's just, at first I was very convinced. The more I think about it, though, the more I've seen, it just seems to me like probably, or it's very possible the election, there was obviously some fraud. I'm not denying that. There's some fraud in every election, though. was enough to tip the scales in terms of illegal fraud. We're not counting like changing constitutional requirements of how to vote in Pennsylvania and stuff like that. So, was there some fraud in 2020? Undoubtedly. Was it enough to flip Arizona, enough to flip Pennsylvania, enough to flip Michigan, enough to flip Wisconsin? I don't know, but there obviously was some. Dan says is up in Canada again. He says he thinks it was thinks it was rigged, and again, it's entirely possible. It obviously was some. Was it enough to completely flip the whole election? I don't know. Trump should be winning these races this year, though, outside the margin of cheating. So if it is close enough to steal, that in and of itself is a problem. So we're hoping it's legit, obviously, but again, I'm not entirely sure. I'm hoping it's legit tonight. I feel a little bit more confident about it. The RNC has done a much better job this time around. Let's see what happens. I'm going to get back on the horn here with Tyler because he and James do appear to be ready to come back on the stream. So I'm going to put you all on hold here for just a second. Let's make sure before I do that, though, that I give you all an update. Florida is still at 73%. Trump up 9. Georgia 9% and Trump up 12. Sorry, no, that's Trump up 22 in Georgia. Again, don't get excited too fast. These will change. South Carolina, Trump leads by 17. That could hold roughly. North Carolina, we've just started getting results from North Carolina. Kamala up big there. Probably means we have a city, maybe your Raleigh, Durham, Winston-Salem, something like that, reporting first this time. Virginia, Kamala up 19. Again, that's not going to last either. If I had to guess, I'm saying you're starting to see not a really big city or county like a Loudoun, maybe something more like a Charlottesville reporting right now in Virginia, which is tipping it. New Hampshire, Kamala up 15, up 7,000 votes. Be interesting to watch New Hampshire as the night goes on. Ohio, we just starting to see reporting, Trump up 15. If that holds, I'm not saying it's going to, but if it does, Bernie Moreno will win Ohio. Mark my words. Speaking of which, let's check how things are going in the Senate elections. Florida, we've got 9-point lead for Rick Scott. He's doing very well there. Ohio, Moreno up by 2 on Brown. Interesting to compare. Let's see how that compares. Ohio, a little bit more reported in the presidential race of what they're expecting in terms of vote total. Trump up 15 there. Moreno only up 2 with 1% of the expected vote total reported in Ohio. And then in Pennsylvania, we've obviously got a big race. Tim Kaine up 20 right now in Hong over Hong Kong here in Virginia. That will tighten. I'm not going to still tighten up by a whole lot, though. We could very well see a 10-point win here for Tim Kaine. Don't get your hopes up. Amendment 4. Let's go ahead and report on Amendment 4 real quick. And Amendment 4 in Florida is at 58.2%. It's still going down. That's the right direction. Let's hope Amendment 4 is defeated to save a lot of babies' lives. 55.5% on Amendment 3, which does appear it's going to fail. That seems pretty steady. Okay, so I'm going to pause it here. I'm going to try to get to your comments as soon as I can. Dan, walking your dog. Love it. I have a dog outside at our house who is not paying any attention to the election results tonight. Must be nice. Okay, I'm going to put it on mute here for a second. I'm going to get with Tyler. I'm going to go ahead and throw this up on the screen for y'all so you can keep an eye on the results. I'm going to take this banner down so y'all can see what's going on there. I'll center this a little bit more for you on the screen. And I'm going to mute my microphone here while I get with Tyler, and we will have him back on the show here hopefully very shortly on the live stream. You do not want to miss it because chances are you have not heard a lot about the about the House elections across the country, and we have an expert standing by waiting to talk about the House elections. If you want to know how the House might very well go, stand by. I'll be right back. we are back. So hold on just a second here. Tyler's about to join us again. We're going to go over here because I want to show you what's going on in Virginia's 5th Congressional District. So we're going to go over here. There we go. Yeah, so check this out. We have the first results in with John McGuire versus Gloria Witt. Obviously, this is my congressional race, a very closely watched one. And so it's going to be very interesting to see how this goes with that throughout the night. There's been a lot of rumors of write-ins going on, even some Republicans flipping and voting for the Democrat due to some questionable means of John McGuire attaining his position in winning the primary. So it's going to be very interesting to keep that keep that in mind. See what happens throughout the night. We'll have James and Tyler on in a moment to help discuss and break down what's going on in the district. You see, it's the only two results we haven't so far. It's not going to be anywhere near 73-26 or 27. You see that we have Cumberland and Halifax, very, very conservative counties. That's not reflecting how the district itself is going to go. So for now, we have Tyler Turner and James Black joining us again. We already mentioned Tyler, director for the AFP, host of the podcast Politically Uncensored. James Black is working with the Standing for Freedom Center at Liberty University. So let's go ahead and bring them in now. And we are live. So Tyler and James, thank you so much for joining the live stream again. How are things going at your watch party?
Thanks for having us here, and thanks to Tyler and AFP Lynchburg Roanoke for having this watch party.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you, Tyler.
You're welcome. Nice to see you again. It's been a whole 20 minutes.
That's right. It's been 20 minutes, 40 minutes, something like that. So let's see here. I currently pulled up. I'd like to start with talking about this. I mentioned James is our U.S. House of Representatives expert. I pulled this up. One of the most closely watched in the primary districts was John McGuire versus Bob Good. McGuire won it. Not going to comment on that. I've talked about that many, many times on the show. But the results have just started being reported for McGuire versus Witt. It's currently 73% for McGuire, 27% for Witt, as we have Cumberland and Halifax, the first counties to report, obviously very conservative. So what do y'all see from, I'll get to the House more broadly here in a minute, some specific races, but as far as this specific race, how do you see the 5th district race breaking down?
Yeah, so I think it's early to know exactly how the House is going to break down, especially nationally, because the House is going to be determined by a bucket of swing districts out in California, like the 45th with Michelle Steele and the 27th with Mike Garcia. But specifically for Virginia, the most encouraging signs I'm seeing are in Congressional District 2, where Jen Pigeons has quite a substantial lead over her Democratic challenger, Missy Cotter Smazel. I expected that race to go Republican anyway, so not a huge surprise there, but still a competitive seat. I'm sure that margin will tighten. And with Congressional District 5, it's just going to depend on what comes in from Charlottesville and how blue are those ballots. And what's the split there in terms of the Democratic margin coming out of Charlottesville City and Albemarle. And we have nothing out of the Charlottesville area in Congressional District 5.
Yep.
I would characterize this, especially with concerns regarding the write-in campaign, and I voted for John McGuire. I support him, obviously, but I would characterize this as a firmly lean R race, but a closer to likely R than tilt R. But I think there's still some uncertainty in this race. I do expect McGuire to win, but we have absolutely nothing from the blue parts of this district. We also have nothing out of Danville, which leans blue. So I would give McGuire a 75 to 80% chance to win. So I guess I would, as I'm talking, I would upgrade the race to a likely Republican race, not a lean R race based on that. But I think McGuire should not have any problems in this race overall.
Okay, gotcha. So basically what I'm hearing is very unlikely for McGuire to lose, but
Correct.
in a bad night for Republicans in Virginia, we could see something happen.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I'm not endorsing that write-in campaign at all. I'm just describing that it is a factor somewhat, but probably only a smaller minor factor.
Right. Gotcha. Yep, no problem at all. So as we look around the country at the various House races, and I will admit this is what I'm least informed on, what are the House races in the closest district, swing district? What are the ones you're most focusing on?
So a couple in New York, New York 17th with Mike Lawler. He has really built a great relationship with the Jewish community in that district around Westchester County, which is going to allow him probably to swim the tide in a Biden D+10 seat in suburban, wealthy, college-educated New York Metro. So that probably likely will be a hold for the Republicans, but very competitively in our tilt Republican type situation. Further up into upstate New York, we've got Mark Molinaro. Again, not my kind of Republican, a little bit more moderate, a little bit more socially liberal. Locked in a huge fight against a Democratic candidate. Can't remember the name of the Democrat. Josh Riley, I think his name is. See, retrieval just works automatically sometimes. That's a toss-up tilt Republican race, in my opinion. Whoever wins that seat will have a long say in determining the who controls the House. A couple of districts in Iowa, the Iowa 3rd Congressional District and the Iowa 1st Congressional District in kind of the southern part of the state. Both of those districts have college towns in them like Des Moines and Iowa City. I personally think the Seltzer poll that was released over the weekend is a bunch of nonsense. But it is possible that there are some trends in those Iowa college towns that could present a challenge, but I expect both of those Republicans to win. But worth keeping an eye on for sure. Some of the big ones, Nebraska 2nd with Don Bacon. I fully expect Kamala Harris to win that district at the presidential level. But Don Bacon is in a toss-up race that I would say tilts towards the Democrat, Tony Vargas, but don't count Don Bacon out. He's got a lot of crossover support. Again, not my type of Republican, but an interesting one nonetheless. Out here in Virginia with Derek Anderson and Eugene Vidman, it looks like Eugene Vidman has jumped out to an early lead. But there's a lot of vote for Anderson that is still to come out, and I'm just going to pull up that race real quick.
I'm going to mention one in Virginia. Mike Glancy in VA10, if you remember the last election, Hung Kao actually was pretty competitive against Wexton. Currently, he's slightly ahead, actually, over the Democrat. The Democrat did have some kind of not off the field, but you could say some discretions that possibly made them a little bit of a more at-risk candidate. So I thought the initial results that came out for VA10 were very encouraging for Republicans. Can Clancy pull off the upset? I mean, that would be one of those nights that it's going to be a very good night for Republicans if he does. But I thought the initial results that came out with him being ahead of his Democratic opponent were very encouraging.
Absolutely. And I think it's, again, California is going to be the key. California's 45th, an Orange County-based district with Michelle Steele. And again, I can't remember the Democratic candidate's name. There's a huge Asian population in that district. And so if you buy into some of the trends, educational polarization, where non-white voters without a college degree are shifting rightward, along with white working class voters who presumably don't have a college degree, bachelor's degree or higher, high school, associate degree type level of education. If you buy into that like I do, and Patrick Ruffini and some other Republican pollsters, I think that Michelle Steele is going to do well with the Asian voters in that district, and she may have an advantage. Up in the 27th with Mike Garcia, that northern Los Angeles County based district, Democrats have underestimated him time and time again, and I think he's going to pull it off again. Going further up to the 22nd district, Central Valley based area, voted for Biden by bid numbers and voted for Clinton by bid numbers, 13 to 16% there. But right trending district, a big, again, referencing educational polarization, big working class Hispanic population in that district. I think the Republican, David Dalladeo, is a favorite over the Democrat, Rudy Salas. And then further down in California, you've got Ken Calvert going up against Tim Rollins. There is a significant LGBTQ plus population in the Palm Springs area where that seat is based off of, but there are also going to be a lot of rural areas in that district that are going to vote for Trump, and I think that Ken Calvert ultimately takes that one. And don't sleep on Nevada. I think that Nevada is actually going to be fool's gold for Democrats this time, and maybe I'm wrong. That could totally end up being wrong, but that could extend down ballot in Nevada. Experts like Ann Selzer and John Ralston, while they're worthy of respect, there's going to come to a point where they miss one. And I think this might be that year for both of them.
Okay. So before we move on from the House then, and I'll address this to either of y'all, what are you thinking I know it's really early in the night. We've only got quarter maybe of states. I think it's more like a sixth of states have closed so far the polls, and though we do have another big batch of them upcoming at 8 p.m. So who do you think right now is going to control the House just preliminarily? I know it's early to call.
I mean, we both predicted the other day on our show that we actually keep the House. I'm really looking at two different races, and I guess the reason why I'm looking at these two different races, if the Republicans are able to flip the main seat that is held by Jared Golden, he's kind of a centrist Democrat. If they're able to flip that one, and they're also able to flip CD7 in Virginia, Abigail Spanberger, who's no longer going to be the congresswoman, she's going to run for the governor of Virginia. Eugene Vidman versus Derek Anderson. If Anderson's able to flip that seat along with the seat in Maine, I consider that kind of like the start of what I would think is us being at least having a leg up and keeping the House. He mentioned all these big seats in California. That's still something to keep a close eye on. And remember, in California, having Trump at the top of the ticket is not a net positive. But I think early on, especially if we can pull off a couple of these flips in Maine and Virginia, I'm thinking it's going to be signs of a good night for Republicans.
There's one district in Florida that has already been taken off the table for Democrats, and it is the 13th congressional district with Anna Paulina Luna. Again, also not my type of Republican for reasons I'm not going to get into in this video. But there was a lot of talk about her Democratic candidate, Whitney Fox, being competitive and winning. And the New York Times has already called that race for the Republican Anna Paulina Luna with her leading 55 to 45% in a district that Pinellas County, St. Pete, Clearwater-based area that Trump narrowly won and DeSantis romped in 2022. So Florida, again, there can't be an official call made right now, but I'm telling you right now, Donald Trump will win Florida. It's non-negotiable that at this point that Kamala Harris is going to lose Florida.
Yes, I agree. Now, I was going to move on here to the away from the House, but I do just want to mention real quick, we do have our first results from more liberal-leaning areas of the House of Representatives. We have, I'm going to throw up on the screen here in just a second. It's currently at 55 to 45, McGuire over Witt. And we have our first results from Albemarle, which is Witt plus 10, Charlottesville, which is Witt plus 60, and Danville, which is Witt plus 21. Halifax, Flavanna, and Cumberland have reported or are starting to report at McGuire plus 35, 23, and 47, respectively. I know that's a lot to throw at you. I figure you can look it up on your own, but I just want to throw those numbers at you. And then once you get a chance to look at them, let me know what you're thinking. Are these above or below what you're expecting? I don't recall Charlottesville being, I know obviously it's very liberal. I was not expecting a plus 60 to Witt margin, but whenever y'all get a chance, let me know what you're thinking when you see those numbers.
Yeah, it looks like it has tightened even a little bit further. Maybe your information is a little bit more up to date, but on what I have on VPAP, it's 53 to 46 in favor of John McGuire. So single-digit race as of right now, but I expect there are a lot of Republican counties where McGuire did especially well in the primary, Goochland area, and other areas. And Lynchburg there is nothing in from Lynchburg right now, so that has implications for our city council races as well.
Yes.
But as of right now, I actually think this might be the high point for Gloria Witt. I think that McGuire is going to actually expand his lead as some of those other counties that I just mentioned come in.
Okay, gotcha. So we are at, sorry, give me just one moment. We are 4 minutes away from polls closing in another batch of states. As we move on to the presidential race here, I wanted to ask you what you think about Virginia here, because I'm seeing some interesting signs from it. Right now, we have 21% of votes in, what I'm seeing from New York Times in Virginia. And Harris has an 8-point lead. However, one thing I'm seeing is Fairfax has already reported 40% of their votes. Obviously, heavy Dem. That's 39%, 39-point lead for Kamala. Loudoun County has already reported over 95% of their votes, and Kamala's up by 17.
It's a decent margin for Trump in Loudoun County. That's a little bit better than I would have expected for him. So
I agree.
There are some positive signs for Trump in Virginia. His Prince William number is a little bit too low, I think, for a statewide win based on some 538 benchmarks I'm having. If he could bump his Fairfax margin a couple of points, that could be good for him. But some good news for Trump. He's winning in Virginia Beach by 12 points. That's a big spread for him.
That is.
I would like to see him improve his numbers in Chesterfield, which is a big suburban, formerly GOP county in Richmond. It's nowhere near as blue as Henrico, although Henrico has no votes in, so that's not a good sign for Trump in Virginia. I think Trump is tracking towards a single-digit loss, somewhere between 3 to 5 points in Virginia. But the Loudoun County number, I think, is a good number for him because 95% of Loudoun County is in, which means not a lot more Democrat votes are going to add to the Harris total from that county.
And are you seeing the numbers right now for the race up there in VA10 or VA7?
Yeah, absolutely. So VPAP always does a great job with that. Mike Clancy is down by 10 points. Still a lot out. So maybe he could cut into that lead a little bit more.
Well, Vindman and Anderson is pretty competitive.
And Virginia 7 is basically tied right now. Tied for Vindman as some votes are coming in. We just worked that race over the weekend and we had a lot of fun. We've got some votes coming in from Culpeper, which is where we were, where Anderson is leading 70 to 30 over Vindman. So that's a nice spread for him. There's still a bunch of precincts out. This is going to be the X factor. We have nothing from Stafford. That is an area that Anderson must win, and he must win it by considerably more than Yesli Vega won it by in her 2022 run against Abigail Spanberger, where she lost the district by 5 points.
Okay.
That's a must win. I agree with them.
Gotcha. Okay, now I want to turn briefly to the U.S. Senate before we get to the presidency here. 1 minute from now, polls will close in pretty much all the northeastern states that have not already closed. Your Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, all those types of states. Pennsylvania and Michigan close, and then several very heavy Trump states as well, along with Illinois, which is obviously not a heavy Trump state. So we're about to have a big show of polls closing here and some called races more than likely. Now, I do want to turn our attention real quick to the Senate races right now. Florida is 80% in. Again, Ron DeSantis is doing has such an excellent operation down there, getting results in fast. Rick Scott with 80% in, up by 11 points in Florida. And I'm going to dive into the counties and what's reporting there here in a little bit. I won't bother you all with that right now. But Rick Scott's up by 11 in Florida. In Virginia, Tim Kaine leads Hung Cal by 10. So if he's tracking a little bit behind Trump right now, not surprising. West Virginia's already been called for Jim Justice. That's not surprising. And then in Ohio, Bernie Moreno currently leads Sherrod Brown by 3 with 14% of the votes in. Mississippi was just called for Trump, so there's another one to no one's surprise. So, and this one may be more for Tyler. It may be more for James. It just depends. Either one of y'all can take it. What are you seeing right now in the Senate races with these early results?
I mean, I'm liking. So, how much is in Ohio right now for Moreno?
14%. So,
and
still a long way to go.
Where are some of the votes outstanding at?
There are a lot of votes outstanding in red areas. Some blue areas. Nothing in from Cleveland and nothing in from Columbus, but we've also got a lot of red vote out still.
I mean, just with the Emerson poll having them up by 4, Trafalgar having them up by almost the same amount, and the market itself kind of betting that this is a red state. I really think that I'd be surprised if Moreno doesn't flip this seat.
Yeah.
I just believe this is a seat that the Republicans will inevitably take. I'm looking forward to seeing the batch of votes that come in for McCormick versus Casey in Pennsylvania, and I'm also looking forward to see when Wisconsin closes to see how it looks between Hovde and Baldwin, because those are also 2 seats that I could see the Republicans flipping, and I think we might know pretty quickly how competitive it is going to be when we see the initial batch released. Do they already have Pennsylvania out?
Kamala Harris has won Maryland, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. We already had a call in Vermont earlier. I fully expect Larry Hogan to go down in that Senate race, but
as do I.
A reduced margin. And I am curious to see just one more quick note about the House. There's a district in Western Maryland that Biden won by 10% in an area where I used to live around Frederick and Hagerstown and Cumberland. There's a Republican, kind of a center-right establishment guy called Neil Parrott. Since Hogan is going to run ahead of Trump by a substantial margin, even though he's losing, I am wondering if Larry Hogan can pull Neil Parrott across the finish line in that House district. But back to the Senate, Trump is actually behind Kamala by 9% in Ohio right now, but there's still a lot of vote out left. And there's more, for whatever reason, there's more blue vote out in the presidential race in Ohio.
Yeah.
With a substantial portion of Columbus now in. So.
Yeah,
and up despite Trump being down.
Yes.
Wow.
So there could be a split ticket vote in Ohio, but I think more likely it's just there are different votes being reported in those races at different times.
I agree. I'm actually just seeing. We got an update from Ohio. I'm not sure where you are. I have 70% of votes in here, and Brown is up by 6. So that would track much more with Trump being down right now by 9.
Okay. Yeah. I expect that to change. Right now, Trump is up in the Electoral College 95 to 35 as of right now.
Okay. Yep, 95-35. Got that here on the ticker on the screen. Okie doke. So yeah, that's looking very interesting. Just out of curiosity, because this is one I had followed earlier on, what are you expecting right now for the margin in this Maryland Senate race with Alsobrooks versus Hogan?
D plus 15.
Wow.
Maybe a little bit less, maybe D plus 13, but somewhere in that range.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, then. Well, let's take a look here at the presidential electoral map before I let you guys go. In New Hampshire, we currently have Kamala up 13 on Trump, but only 14% of the votes in. And depending on what's reporting, that may be actually end up being a good sign for him. Kamala up 7 on Trump in Virginia right now. And I mentioned a second ago, Loudon with already 95% of the votes in or more. Loudon is a big one. And if Trump is only tracking down by, I think I said the margin was about, what did I say, 57-40, something like that. And it wasn't down as much as I thought he'd be in Loudon. So if Trump can get out of here, not down by a whole lot with a lot of Loudon and a lot of Fairfax reporting. We have 46% in Fairfax, 95% in Loudon, 17% deficit for Trump and Loudon, and 39% deficit in Fairfax with 46 in. But I mean, again, you mentioned we don't have any Lynchburg yet. We don't have any Bedford or Campbell, which are going to be, I just mentioned Campbell because that's where I am. Bedford's going to be heavier Trump than Campbell. Campbell, I will be interested in just watching those results with intrigue. Nothing from Roanoke yet. We'll need to see how heavy that goes. You mentioned the Beach, Trump up by 11 in Virginia Beach. So Virginia could turn out to be very interesting. As far as the rest of the country goes, Florida has been called for Trump. I think you mentioned that already. 11-point lead there for Trump with 85%. And I remember Tyler mentioning a minute ago that, or mentioning when he was on the first time, that if we saw a 6 to 7 point margin for Trump in Florida, that he would consider that as a really good result. And right now we are seeing, and I don't know what's left to report, probably some of the bigger cities and counties like Miami-Dade, but right now the race has been called in Florida with Trump with an 11-point lead. So Tyler, what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, you also see they just called it for Rick Scott, so he's going to keep his seat in the Senate by 11%. So obviously right now with about 2/3 of the vote in, it looks as if Trump did extremely well in Florida. And, you know, I probably underestimated a little bit because of just the migration of people to Florida.
I believe we may have lost a connection there, so we're going to work on getting Tyler back here in just a moment. So lost a connection with him, but we will get him back in just a second. He and James, let me know what y'all think about that, by the way. So that was a really big dump of information. We had talking a lot about the House. James, the expert, seems very optimistic about Republicans holding the House. We're well on our way to flipping the Senate. Very interesting races to watch in the presidential race as well. Lots to talk about. I'm going to tell Tyler. Anyway, we'll get him back in just a moment. He and James. So yeah, very interesting race right now. Put that back on the screen. We're going to waltz back over here, no pun intended, to the presidential election results in Georgia right now. Is a 14-point lead for Trump right now with 37% of the vote in. I'm not going to overreact to that because, again, I don't know what's reporting. We're going to get deeper into which counties are reporting where here in a moment. Let's get this here. In Virginia 5, I've been following it like I told you. We have a 60-40 lead for McGuire right now. in Virginia is 5. Amendment 4 in Florida, I don't want to forget it. Amendment 4, 82% of the vote in, and it's a 57.4% total right now for Amendment 4 in Florida. They need 60% to pass the Kill 'Em All amendment. It's at 57.4% say yes. And as long as we keep them under 60, Florida's Amendment 4 does not pass. Amendment 3 is pretty much dead. We're at 56% with Amendment 3. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this up on the screen for y'all. I'm going to work on getting Tyler back here in just a moment, and we're going to take another quick break. And I think we may have him back now. There we go. Hold on. Change of plans. Okay, we are back. There we go. Connection revived. There we go.
Where were we? We were talking about the Florida being called.
I believe so, yes. And I did just see we got a vote dump from Georgia right now. 37% of the vote in Georgia. Trump leads by 14.
Yeah,
and
that's very good news for Trump.
Yeah.
Let's go to Georgia right now, actually.
Yeah.
So we just want to check and see what is out in that state. Sorry, just dealing with computer stuff right now.
Fulton County, obviously the hubbub of all that, the hub of all that stuff going on with the election race, election race. What am I saying? Sorry, the hub of all the political stuff, political persecution, prosecution, whatever you want to call it, going on in Fulton County. Kamala up 71-28 on Trump. She leads in Douglas County, leads in Clayton. All is to be expected. It's what's around Atlanta. So what are you seeing as you zoom in here on the Atlanta results? On the Georgia results.
Kamala is running behind her benchmarks to win in Fulton County right now, according to 538. She's at 71%. The benchmark for a tied race in Georgia is 72.3. So that is very good news for Trump right now. He, as of right now, is the favorite in Georgia, but we don't know yet. It's still tilt Republican. Anything could happen as more votes come in from Atlanta, but right now you would rather be Trump than Harris in Georgia.
Oh, I think no doubt about that. Do you have anything to add to that, Tyler?
I mean, yeah, it's looking obviously good right now. But as you see in a lot of these states, it's just so early. I just saw the dump by North Carolina, and obviously right now it looks like good for Kamala Harris. But those are a lot of early votes, so there's gonna be a lot coming in. So
there's a lot still out.
It's just hard to say early on like how good they are. I think personally that Virginia's results actually look not bad.
I think so as well. Yeah.
The fact that he has so many red areas that still have not been counted, and so many of the more blue areas have been counted, and she does not have a more substantial lead, I think actually looks very good. And when I'm looking at it from the VA7 aspect, I'm thinking that's going to be very, very competitive until the final bell tonight, or let's see, even if it passed tonight. So I like the results early on in Virginia. Obviously I like what I'm seeing in Georgia, but then I don't like what I see in North Carolina. But there's just so many votes out there yet to be counted.
There's a lot of Republican vote left out in North Carolina. Only 7% is in. Kamala, the race is not going to be 10 points in either direction. It is going to get closer, and it's going to move towards Trump. We just don't know by how much at this point.
Right. Yeah, and you mentioned Virginia, 31% in. Kamala only leads by 6. We mentioned some of the very liberal counties were starting to. A lot of their votes are already reported. Mentioned Georgia. Our first results out of Pennsylvania, 5% in shows Kamala leading Trump 76-23. But we're already getting the results we're getting from Allegheny County around Pittsburgh, and Kamala leads Trump in the Pittsburgh area 73-26. She leads in the Philadelphia area 87-12. What I'm seeing right now. Do you know if that's about where she needs to be?
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
Yeah, no problem. So in Pennsylvania, we just got our first results, 5% in. Kamala leads in the Pittsburgh area, 73-26 over Trump, with 31% of the votes in. She leads in the Philadelphia area over Trump with 16% of the votes in, 87-12.
Yeah, so that's definitely above where she would need to be, because Pittsburgh is a big population center, or Allegheny County, 10.4% of the state population. Trump would need to be at around 40% there to be competitive statewide. But here's the good news. This is not like the Fulton County situation because there's so little of the vote there that's in, from what I understand. 55% of the vote was in that Fulton County, and when we were looking at Georgia just a few minutes ago. So I think that, if anything, has more bearing on the outcome of that race than what we're seeing early in Pennsylvania with so little in. It's saying that 29% is in, but still, I think we've got a long way to go.
Okay, gotcha. Very reasonable. Ohio, Trump slimmed the margin down to 5 in Ohio, still just 34% in there. And we are getting results early on from Franklin, which is around Columbus, from Cleveland area, from Akron area. So the cities are reporting pretty quickly there. So I think Trump's got a lot of time.
Yeah.
Virginia, Trump down just by 4 right now. And Prince William County now in. 72% of Prince William in. Trump down 59 to 39. I don't know if you can toggle over to the Virginia map, but and I'll give you a minute to do that. But just off the top of your head, how is that sounding for y'all? With Trump down 39 in Fairfax, down 20 in Prince William, down 17 in Loudoun.
The Loudoun number is obviously the best. I think the Prince William number is just a little bit below. Excuse me. Just a little bit below where he would need to be. He needs to be around 41%. So close, but hopefully as more election day vote comes in, he can close that gap. I think he's still tracking for a narrow loss there. But I think probably better than a lot of us expected, which, again, if it's a competitive loss in Virginia, that's exactly what happened in 2016, where Trump lost Virginia by about 5, and it tracked with an electoral college win with Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and other states. Yeah, that's what I would say about that right now.
Gotcha. So we do have our first result from Michigan as well. Oakland County, the first report there. Just 16% of their votes in, but that is obviously just north of Detroit. And Kamala up there 73 to 26. And it's way too early to tell anything in Michigan, but we do start to have our first results there. And lastly, I'm going to let you guys go because I'm sure y'all have got more fun stuff to get to than talking to me. Last thing, I just want to toggle back over to the Senate race. 26% in Ohio. Sherrod Brown up by 2 on Bernie Moreno there. In Virginia, Cal has closed the gap a little bit on Tim Kaine. He's down by 6. And Pennsylvania, we mentioned, I believe, maybe we did not mention the presidential race yet. Pennsylvania, we've got Kamala up big time, about 50 points on Trump. Oh, yeah, I did mention Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. And then in the very similar, about 50 points to McCormick trailing Casey. So lots to watch there. Last thing I'll mention before I let you guys go is the New Hampshire race for president. I know that's one we wanted to keep an eye on just in case in a rare scenario it could end up flipping. Kamala currently up there by 12 on Trump. What do you think about New Hampshire? Is there a chance?
I think strong advantage for Democrats in New Hampshire as of right now. That could change because only 16% of the vote is in. And let's just check on the governor's race real quick because the Republican was ahead. Kelly Ayotte was ahead. Just go down. Yeah, I think she is more on track to win definitely than Trump is. She's only down by 1.5 points, and there's over 80% of the vote left to count in New Hampshire. A bunch of red areas. New Hampshire's more a collection of small towns than big cities. But yeah, I would say tilt Republican for the governor's race there in New Hampshire, but lean likely Democrat for the presidential race at this time.
Yeah, it's just a tough demographic for Trump. It's not. It's a really college educated. It's one of the most educated states in America, and very agnostic when it comes to their religious beliefs. So it just tends to be more of like a socially liberal, fiscally conservative, very strong libertarian state. The Libertarian Party in New Hampshire did come out and endorse Trump, and I thought that might give him a boost. But it's always been a tough state for Trump or anyone that he's actually supported, like Carolyn Levitt. He supported the guy who ran for Senate the last election, and he did not do very well. So I think it's just a tough state for him. I was hoping he's able to maybe pull it out. Shocker. I think I mentioned that in our initial watch here, but I don't think it's going to happen from the way the results are looking right now.
Yeah. So just a quick temperature check before we head out for the evening. Thank you again so much for having us on.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Electoral College, 105 to 31. We have Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, Missouri, and Oklahoma called for Trump, and he is ahead in Texas right now. And in the Senate, we have 43 seats for the Republicans to 34 for the Democrats. I would say the chance of a Republican Senate takeover is likely Republican at this time. And in the House, we have 41 seats called for the Republicans to 23 for the Democrats.
Okay, dope. Gotcha. Very good. Very last thing I'll mention. I keep telling him I'm going to let you go, and I really am going to. McGuire currently up on Witt by 13 points, and so that is certainly worth keeping an eye on. Do you have anything else might be worth sharing in that race before you go? Or is it kind of
what percentage of the vote is in that particular race?
only 10% in right now from what I'm seeing? McGuire up 13, and then obviously the vast majority of counties, or several of the majority, that is, of the counties not in yet. I see he's performing very well in places like Appomattox. McGuire is up 60, Flavanna up 23, Goochland up 44, and then Albemarle, Charlottesville, Danville struggling pretty mightily there.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm looking at right now, this is looking pretty strong for McGuire. Yeah. There's just a lot of votes outstanding in very red areas. So I find it very unlikely for anything but a pretty comfortable McGuire victory.
Charlottesville City is mostly in now. I just have one thing I've got to get off my chest. What is going on in Lynchburg? We went through the exact same thing last year in 2023, where we didn't have anything in Wendell Walker's House of Delegates race. I don't understand what the issue is with Lynchburg. Why can't we count our votes with an hour? Have anything more than an hour after poll closing? Maybe there's something I don't know, and I want to be respectful to those who are involved in the process. But what's the issue? Why is there nothing out of Lynchburg yet?
It might have been kind of problematic in the primary. A lot of problematic issues happened in Lynchburg City. So perhaps there's a little bit of issue.
Yeah. Okay. Well, gentlemen, I appreciate your time. I'm going to let y'all get back to it. Appreciate it as always. Yeah. Have a great rest of your evening.
Hey, thanks, sir. You have a great night.
Thank you, sir.
On to victory.
On to victory.
Absolutely. Okay, folks. Well, thank you for sticking with me here on this election night 2024. I'm going to leave the map up here for you. We're going to take another quick break with the stream. And there we go. Okay, sorry, setting the last couple of settings here. I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of this quick break to update the Electoral College count. The poll closings coming up. I'm going to leave this map up on the screen so y'all can see that. I'll be right back, so don't go anywhere. We got more coverage upcoming, and this is the opportunity you have to drop your comments in the comment section on Facebook or on YouTube, and I will see them, and I will try to respond to them. So give me just a moment. I'll be right back. Okay, folks, we're back. We are back. Never fear. I'm going to go ahead and get the camera up there, take this down. So we've got over here in Georgia, Trump still leads by 11. That's not going to hold, but I am very intrigued to see by how much Trump does win Georgia, if indeed he does win it. You see around Savannah, Kamala up, but only 6% in. 64% around Augusta. In the Atlanta area, Cobb County is somewhat close. Douglas, Clayton. I am very surprised, Fulton, that Kamala's down as much as she is. We'll see how much of those, or how much as those continue to report, how much it's going to flip things. But I am surprised, I must admit, to see Georgia as Trump as far ahead as he is in Florida, Georgia right now. I'm sorry, I can't speak. In Virginia, Trump currently leads Kamala. I am also very surprised to see this. I'm under no again, I don't think Trump's going to win the state, so don't get your hopes up too much. But Fairfax has almost 50% of their votes in. Loudoun's pretty much reported. Prince William is close to having reported. Roanoke, 51% in. Trump down. She's up 2-1 on Trump. In Virginia Beach, Trump leads by 12. That's a great sign for him. In Bedford, Trump up big. That doesn't have a whole lot of votes, but it should be heavy for Trump. All of Southwest Virginia will be very likely heavy for Trump. So we're going to see what the results are. It's definitely too early to call for Kamala. It's certainly too early to call for Trump. I don't think we can do that until very close, if at all. It would be surprising to me. So let's see here. We've got in Pennsylvania, Kamala's still up big there. Too early to really tell anything in that race. Trump does lead in Ohio again. Let's check the Senate results. So here we go. Here's our Senate election results. Brown's still up there. Moreno, don't love to see that Moreno's trailing behind Trump, but I think Ohio's going to start tilting more, going more and more toward Trump as the night goes on, and therefore Moreno as well. I would be surprised if we lose that seat, as Tyler was saying as well. Virginia, Tim Kaine up just 2 on Hung Cao. That's a bit surprising, but I do think Kaine will still win it. Michigan, you see Alyssa Slotkin up big over Mike Rogers, just 5% in there, though. And let's go over to President Michigan, 6% in. Kamala up 16 on Trump. Let's see how much we have of Detroit. Detroit's in Wayne County. We've only got a tiny bit in, but the big one we have in is Oakland County, 31% in. Trump up, Kamala up 20 there. Ann Arbor, Washtenaw County, Kamala up 23, 22% in, 31%. So yeah, it's interesting. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't really know. I'm not that familiar with Michigan's landscape. I know where obviously the urban areas are. So let's go ahead here and get this ticker going back up. Our next poll closing is at 8:30, which is just Arkansas. Let's see here. Next poll closing, 8:30 p.m. Arkansas. Okay. So I'm going to get that ticker back up. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to adjust this. There we go. So we have a little bit more of a, there we go. That's kind of what we're looking for. So here we go. Yeah. It's not looking as bad as it could. It's not looking as great as it could. Half the country is morons, but that's neither, here nor there. I'm interested to watch the amendment in Missouri, the Kill 'Em All amendment in Missouri, and see how much, because Trump's going to win Missouri by a lot, and see how much that amendment unfortunately probably passes by. So let's check out here. 5th Congressional District. Looks like John McGuire is on his way to a win here. I keep mentioning this because it is my district, the 5th Congressional District, and there was obviously some rumors about write-ins costing McGuire the campaign there, but I don't believe that is going to happen. So let's see here. The House. See how that's going across the country. Don't have a lot reported there yet. No big deal. We'll move back over to the presidency here. We need to update our electoral vote count. 101 for Trump, 52 for Harris. Whoops, 101 for Trump. And let's see, what did I say here? 52 for Harris. Okay, dope. There we go. Get our ticker back up. So, yes, we do have a tight race going on. You'd like to see Trump doing better in Ohio than he currently is, but that's, again, we do have the Cleveland area reporting 33% in, Columbus 40, Cincinnati area 37, Toledo area 40% in. So we've got the big cities reporting. I'm not really worried about Trump losing Ohio. In Texas, Trump winning by 5. Not at all surprising there. Georgia 55%. Trump holds at 11. Trump up by 0.3 in Virginia. That's very, very unusual. I must admit, North Carolina, Trump is tied 14% in. Let's see who's reporting. Who's reporting where? We have Wake County, which is around Raleigh, only 6% in. Greensboro, nothing. Charlotte, not very much. So yeah, I must admit, I am a little bit surprised that Trump is not doing better than he is in North Carolina right now. I'm not very worried about it at the moment, but North Carolina is definitely one to watch. So keep an eye on that. Let's take another quick glance at the Senate. Republicans up 43-34. We'll go ahead and add that to our ticker. That would be U.S. Senate seats. Republican 43 and Democrat 34. So we'll definitely keep an eye on the Senate. Would definitely like to see Bernie Moreno doing better in Ohio than he is right now, but again, plenty of time. So let's check out here. Make sure I'm not missing any comments. Again, Facebook or YouTube, feel free to comment and let me know what you think about the various races going on, and I will be as faithful as I can to respond to you with those. Go ahead and put our battleground states back up. Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. We mentioned we've got Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio, or Ohio's not one of the ones I mentioned. Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, all starting to report. We'll go back over here to the presidency and make sure I'm up to date here. Something was called for Harris here, 71. Oh, it must have been. That was Illinois was called for Harris, 71. So that's going to put her, yes, that was Illinois. Harris up to 71 in the Electoral College vote count. Not at all surprising. And Arkansas has closed, and it is called for Trump as well. So we're going to edit that ticker. The next poll closing at 9 o'clock p.m. is a big one. This is 9 o'clock Eastern time, of course. And that will be, here's what we have closing at 9 o'clock. We have Arizona, which is a big one, New Mexico and Louisiana. So we'll start with those. Arizona, New Mexico, and Louisiana, all closing at 9 o'clock in our next poll closing. We've also got Colorado, Wyoming, and Nebraska. Colorado, Wyoming, and Nebraska are closing. And make sure I'm not forgetting one, New York, Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota. Iowa, New York, go back there. Iowa, New York, Wisconsin, Minnesota. Okay, go ahead and get this ticker running again. Trump currently leads Harris 101 in electoral vote count to Harris's 71. The next poll closing is at 9 o'clock p.m. and you've got all these states. The polls are closing. Obviously, the two big ones being Arizona and Wisconsin. Those will close at 9 o'clock. And we did mention Amendments 3 and 4 seem to have gone down in Florida. 90% is in Florida. Amendment 4 is at 57.1%. And no has defeated Florida Amendment 3 as well. Only 56 or a little under of the voters voted yes to pass Florida Amendment 3 legalizing marijuana. That one failed, and it's very likely that Amendment 4 is going to fail as well. 90% in Florida. It is down by 3 points from the 60% threshold it needs. Praise the Lord, because that needed to be defeated badly. So we've got here, let's take another look at our Senate seats. Let's see here what we've got. In Texas, Ted Cruz in a tight race over Colin Allred. But you see, Western Texas, Central Texas not reporting a whole lot yet. We've got Dallas reporting big. We've got Houston reporting big. Travis County around Austin. Williamson County around Austin. Bexar County around San Antonio. So, yeah, nothing to worry about here. Cruz is going to hold on to his Senate seat easily. In Virginia, Tim Kaine holding on to a narrow lead over Hung Cao. He will very likely be winning that state. Yes, he'll be winning Virginia. Ohio, Sherrod Brown's lead chopped down to 50% over, chopped down to 50 to 48% over Bernie Moreno. In Pennsylvania, Bob Casey leading Dave McCormick by quite a bit. Again, only 10% in Pennsylvania. Michigan, Alyssa Slotkin up on Mike Rogers, 7% in. She's up by 15. I would like to take another look at Pennsylvania because I am a little bit concerned about those electoral results. 12% in. Harris up 29 points on 29 points. Pittsburgh, 32% of the vote in. We talked to James Black a moment ago in an election. He's followed the elections very closely around the country in the House, and he mentioned Trump needs to be up more like 40% around Pittsburgh, so he definitely has some ground to catch up. We've got around Philadelphia coming in heavy for Harris. And, of course, again, I mentioned, in our predictions, a lot of people mention that Trump does not have to win Pennsylvania. He certainly may very well, but he does not have to, so don't despair. He certainly could win Michigan or Wisconsin. So that's entirely possible as long as he wins Arizona, Georgia, and North Carolina, and he probably will win all three of those. Nevada would be helpful, but not necessary. So let's see what else we've got here. Let's check out, see if Lynchburg is reporting at all yet. We're going to go over to vpap.org, and we're going to see some election results. And we're going to see if we're getting anything from Virginia yet. Jen Kiggins looks like she will hold her tight what could have been a tight congressional race in CD2, Congressional District 2. Derek Anderson locked in a tight one with Eugene Vindman. Mike Clancy not out of it in the 10th Congressional District in Virginia. As far as local races go, we're going to search for Lynchburg here. And there it is. Lynchburg, we've got nothing yet as far as the reporting goes. The reporting in Lynchburg, as James mentioned, has been pretty dismal over the past couple election cycles. Lynchburg has been very, very slow to report. So, yeah, that's a very interesting thing to keep your eye on. We mentioned amendments in Florida, that those have been likely defeated. As far as the Senate elections go, we'll toggle back over here real quick. Republicans have flipped West Virginia as expected. Rick Scott winning Florida by 13 points. That was much more than expected. 91% in there. Republicans hold on to Mississippi, Tennessee, and Indiana. Flipped West Virginia. Democrats hold on Delaware. New Jersey. Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts. Bernie Sanders going to win re-election easily in Vermont as well. In Missouri, Josh Hawley already off to a strong start. Ted Cruz, like I said, will pull away from Colin Allred. It will not be that close. Still 101 to 71 in the Electoral College vote count. So nothing to worry about there at the moment. Again, we mentioned Pennsylvania. You'd like to see a better result at Pennsylvania. Trump's down big right now, but That could change. New Hampshire, 9-point lead for Harris, 28% in. The cities are not just drowning out the rest of the state yet, although we do have Stafford County. Trump not doing horribly with 62% in. So New Hampshire not out of the question yet for Trump, but not at all likely either at this point. I have a drink here. Red for Republican. Okay. Let's see here what else we've got. Georgia at 58% in. Trump still up by 11 there. I must admit, I'm very surprised to see Trump up as much as he is, especially with these big cities reporting a lot of their votes already. So we could certainly see now Savannah, that could certainly help Harris out a lot. But with Augusta area and Atlanta area already largely reporting, Georgia's looking very good for Trump. In Virginia, our reporting has slowed down a little bit. That happens a lot of the time. In Virginia, Trump leading by a little over 0.5%. Again, loud and mostly reported. Fairfax, 55% in. Trump down by 27. Not the end of the world there. Sorry, 37. Prince William County, 77% in. Trump down by, that's 29, if I'm not, 19, sorry. Doing my math incorrectly there. It is, I've been up since 4 a.m. this morning, folks. So if you could do math any better, being up this late, let me know. Virginia Beach, Trump holds a 6-point lead there with 32% of the votes in. We do have another called race, it would appear. They have, no, I'm sorry, Maryland was already called. I thought I had seen that Maryland was not called yet. Ohio, Trump is leading there over Harris, so a good sign there. Michigan down big to Harris right now, but nothing too much to worry about. As a matter of fact, with Washtenaw and Oakland County already getting their results largely in, with the rest of the state still to go. Michigan not looking too bad for Trump at the moment. Let's see, what else are we forgetting here? Do we have anything else we're forgetting? At 9 o'clock, again, 12 minutes from now, polls will close in Arizona, in New Mexico, Louisiana, Colorado, Wyoming, Nebraska, Iowa, New York, Wisconsin, Minnesota. Again, I mentioned Arizona as well. Arizona's a big one, obviously. So, as is Wisconsin. So we'll have to keep an eye on those. Republicans, let's make sure I'm not forgetting anything in the Senate. 43 to 34 still in the Senate. Nothing they're going to be called for a while, more than likely. Although I think Josh Hawley's seat is safe to call, my personal opinion. Ted Cruz's seat is safe to call. They're not going to call it, obviously. North Dakota is safe to call. Ohio, very close. We'll definitely have to see what happens in Ohio. Moreno definitely trailing Trump. In Virginia, Tim Kaine still leading Hung Cao by 2. Back over to the presidential race here. Make sure y'all get a good look at this on your screen. There we go. Okie doke. Let's see if we're forgetting anything else. Again, nothing out of Lynchburg so far. I mentioned the 5th Congressional District. And that appears to be a John McGuire win there. 57.6 to 42.4%. He currently leads Gloria Witt. So we'll see what happens there. Maryland, Larry Hogan leads, but he is likely going to lose by a lot based on what James was telling me. That's kind of what's expected anyway. And so let's make sure we're not forgetting anything here. In Pennsylvania, we have 13% in now. Harris beating Trump by 37%. But again, not to panic with Pennsylvania right now. Not looking as nice as we would like, but not the end of the world. We do have a vote dump from Georgia. This one's an important one. Trump still leads by 5 in Georgia. Definitely got his lead trimmed down. And we have what dump? Something dumped. Let's see here. Was it around Augusta? Maybe it's around Columbus. That might have been it. Harris, no, that's only 39,000 votes for her. It may have been one of the ones around here. Might have been DeKalb County just dumped. That could be it. Clayton County, Fulton, all those still reporting. Cobb. So Georgia still looking good for Trump. 24% in Trump has rebounded and is up by 7 in North Carolina. Probably not anything to worry about there in North Carolina for Trump. Raleigh going to go heavy for him, that whole area. Yeah, I don't think he has anything to worry about in North Carolina or Georgia, seriously. Georgia is, North Carolina is already called. Josh Stein already getting the race called for governor. Mark Robinson completely imploded in that campaign. And yeah, that appears like it's going to go to Josh Stein. North Carolina will elect a Democrat governor yet again. And that, I think, can be blamed pretty squarely on Robinson, his campaign, from what I know of that campaign. Kamala up by 11 in New Hampshire. All that still expected. Not real surprising or anything. So we have kind of a lull here. We're waiting for the some more vote dumps. We're waiting for I think what else are we waiting for? Waiting for the 9 p.m. poll closings. And we don't have any news right now in the Senate or presidential races. So go down to the comments, Facebook, YouTube. Let me know what y'all think. We have been streaming for quite some time now, and we're going to keep rocking with it for a while longer. I'm not exactly sure how long I'm going to stick out with it. Certainly until we have some idea how the race is going. We want to certainly get some results from Arizona, Wisconsin, see what's happening in Michigan and Pennsylvania, and Georgia, and all those races. So we will certainly stick around for a while longer. Exactly how long, I'm not sure. Probably will not be all night. That's actually, I can guarantee it will not be all night if we're counting votes all night, which we will be in some states more than likely. Trump 101, Harris 71. That is correct on the ticker. And in the Senate, that would be, let's check here, make sure we're not forgetting anything. Yep, 43 to 34. I'm going to leave it on president here since that's what most of y'all, I'm sure, care about. I'm going to check out see what kind of news we have here. And I'm seeing some sources saying that Virginia has been clinched for Harris and Kane, but I think it's just too early to call that. That's not being called by the AP, and the AP is usually the ones that kind of are definitive with the calls. Let's see here what else we've got. And it does not appear we have anything else breaking at the moment. Okay. Republicans do lead in the U.S. Senate. Again, 43 to 34 right now. 43 to 34. Yeah, it's certainly come down to the wire. I don't really have a whole lot else to add to it at the moment. In terms of commentary, we did get a vote dump from New Hampshire. Kamala still leads by 11 there with 30% of the votes in. Ohio, Trump extending his lead to 5 points with 46%. Let's see how that, what that's like for Moreno. Moreno is catching up. He is down by just under a point to Brown. So let's see if he's at 48. Trump's at 52, I think. Yeah, so Moreno is trailing Trump by about 4 points in Ohio. That's very interesting. I didn't think he trailed Trump by that much, and he may not once the night's over, but that's an interesting thing to keep an eye on for sure. Virginia, Trump's still leading by 1.2. We do 48% in. Let's see, we've got Bedford starting to come in for Trump, heavy, obviously. Roanoke, Trump up 63. Kamala up 63-33. That's about what I expected from Roanoke. The Beach, Virginia Beach, Trump's still leading, 52 to 46. And let's get out of here. Georgia, 66% in. Trump still leading by 5 points. And it would not surprise me. I'm going to adjust my headset here. Would not surprise me at all if we see Georgia called for Trump shortly. And that'd be the first big swing state for him. He's up now 9 in North Carolina with 16 electoral votes in. 16% in. And yeah, we'll see. The city's not reported very quickly in North Carolina. So I'm not going to say it's looking great for Trump yet, because it's not. It's not looking fantastic, but it's not looking real bad for him there either. It's still looking somewhat positive. Pennsylvania, Trump's starting to close the gap a little bit, down 34% in Pennsylvania, just 14% in though. Ohio, we already touched on that. Michigan, Trump down 12 to the vice president, 8% in. Michigan, and again, 42% of the vote in. Kamala up 15 around Detroit and around Ann Arbor, 33% in. Rural County is still taking a while to report in Michigan, so I must admit Michigan's not looking bad for Trump right now. Trump up 7 in Texas. That's not at all surprising. What else do we got in the Senate? Let's check out how Ted Cruz is doing. Old Ted down there in Texas. He's up 4 points on all red, and that lead is going to expand, so don't worry about that. Let's see. Ohio, Brown up by just a point now. Mike Rogers seriously trailing Alyssa Slotkin, but again, same as with Trump. We got plenty of time there. Virginia, Tim Kaine still just up on Hung Cao by, that is 2 points. So, Maryland is very likely to be lost by Hogan. He's up right now, but there's only a point in. Pennsylvania, Bob Casey up big as well. And so, yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on. Let's see how the House is doing. Do we have any? Let's see here. I'm trying to see if we have any interesting races in the House. I'm not seeing them at the moment. I will go ahead and add it to our ticker. The Republicans up 69-38 in the House. All House seats up for election, obviously. House of Representatives. And that would be Republican at, whoa, I lost it. Whoops, hold on a second. Republican at 70, Dems at 38. Republican 70. And Democrats 38. Okay. Go ahead and put the ticker back up. There y'all go. Go back over to the president map here. 15% now in Pennsylvania. Kamala up by 31. Trump slowly closing the gap there. Ohio, Trump still up by 5. Georgia, Trump up by 5. North Carolina, Trump up by 10 with 26% of the votes in. Trump 50% in Virginia, and he's still up by a point. Let's see, he's up by a point in Virginia. 50% of the votes in, and I must say Roanoke 55% in. Let's see, Danville 38% in, heavy Dem but not big. Richmond area, Richmond could be potentially big for Kamala, but with Prince William and Fairfax and Loudoun reporting as much as they are already, Kamala's not where she wants to be in Virginia. You cannot be comfortable in Virginia if you're Kamala Harris. Yeah, definitely you cannot be comfortable. Some of these races are not called yet, but they will be. Like Texas, Kansas, Missouri, North Dakota, all these places that the polls have closed, obviously. And let's see here. We of course have our battleground states again: Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and that is soon Nevada will be the only swing state where the polls have not closed yet. We want to keep an eye on New Hampshire and Michigan New Hampshire and Virginia as we've been doing. New Mexico, nothing's been reported yet. Minnesota, nothing been reported yet. I don't expect Trump to win those. Let's see what else we've got here. Anything from Virginia yet? Or from Lynchburg yet? We still have nothing from Lynchburg, so that's certainly very interesting. Let's see here. In Virginia, the constitutional amendment has passed overwhelmingly. It's not over yet, but it's going to pass overwhelmingly. Not at all surprised to see that. In Virginia, Virginia, the constitutional amendment about a tax exemption passed overwhelmingly. No surprise there. Let's see what else we've got. I think it's about time to bring another guest, don't y'all? Let's go ahead and do it because conversation is dragging here a little bit. So I'm going to bring in, I hope, Andrew Rousseau, who was working all day poll watching in a couple different locations. I want to ask him what he has seen. And I did see just now that we do have an additional call. Kamala Harris wins New York. They closed at 9. We're about to get another batch of polls closed at 9 o'clock. So let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and just polls closing now, and you see the map starting to light up. And we have 111 for, oh, there we go. See, they're starting to come in now. South Dakota's been called for Trump as polls close. Nebraska, New York. So Trump's at 114. I'm going to see if I can keep up here. Harris at 99. Again, a lot of these are just getting called as soon as the polls officially close. Let's see here. Yeah, all this is looking. Kansas, interestingly, Kamala's still up by 4, but you see all over here, none of the rural areas of Kansas have reported. Wichita, I assume will probably go for Harris. I don't know by how much exactly, but Topeka is what is giving her the state right now. Sorry, no, it's Johnson County, and that's because it's around Kansas City. I forgot Kansas City. I don't know why I forgot Kansas City was in Kansas and Missouri, but here we are. But that's why Kamala's up big right now. So she's up. We just got another call. Wyoming, of course, going for Trump. That's going to be Wyoming will be battling it out with West Virginia to be the most Trumpy state. And so that's going to put Trump up to 120 electoral votes. Go ahead and edit that on our ticker. There we go. Trump 120, Harris 99, and because I want everything to be perfect, I'm going to adjust that right there. So now it's even. Okie doke. Let's see what else we've got here. Let's do a race highlight here. In Virginia, 51% in. Trump is still leading. I'm going to go ahead and make a new headline here. Virginia, surprising. Virginia surprisingly close. We'll go ahead and put that up. Now I'll take down the battleground states for a minute. So let's see what else we've got here. Let's go ahead as these this round of polls are closing. Let's go ahead and see if I can't bring in Andrew. So hold on just a second here. We're going to go ahead and put that up on the screen. I'm going to take this down for a moment, and we'll be back momentarily. I'm going to see if we can get Andrew on the line. Okay, we are back, and like I said, leave your thoughts in the comments. We'll get to those. And we do have my good friend Andrew, who will be joining us. I mentioned he is a guest analyst on Fight and Revive. He's going to be calling in. We've had Tyler Turner earlier in the evening. We had James Black coming on earlier in the evening. Both of them letting us know how they feel about the Senate and the House and some specifics in the races more broadly. We like to get in-depth analysis and coverage here, not just your Trump's going to win this state, Harris is going to win that state. We want to get down and say, into the specifics and why we think that's going to happen. So we are going to have Andrew calling in shortly. He's going to tell us about how things went for him on the ground today. He was poll watching in a couple different locations all day. And we're going to see how that went for him. Go ahead and get our ticker rolling again. Go ahead and hold this back on. So yeah, I must say I'm not feeling great about tonight, if I'm being completely honest with you. I don't feel horribly either. I'm just kind of, in the middle somewhere. I mentioned on my final electoral map prediction episode, which I released yesterday. You can watch it if you want to see how accurate I was once all this goes down, that I mentioned that it's very comforting to remember that God is in control, and he is working all these results together for the good of believers. And so we can take comfort in that. So Andrew will be with us momentarily. Let's check and make sure we're up to date. 120 to 99 in the presidency. And here we go. Andrew is with us. I'm going to update these Senate and House tickers as well if they need to be. Andrew, I've got you.
How's it going?
Okay,
Yep, I can hear you loud and clear.
Awesome. There we go. Beautiful. So
Oh,
Andrew,
now all my friends are abandoning me now that I've called into your show.
well, there's not currently a lot of viewers anyway. We had a higher number earlier. But however, good to talk to you. So you were poll watching today in
Yes, sir.
a couple different spots. So I mentioned Virginia, mentioning several times, is not at all a lock for Harris. She is not where she wants to be here. 53% of the votes in. Trump leads by 2.
The Hill just called Virginia for Heels Up Harris.
Love the nickname. We have some places that are calling it, some places that are not. I must admit, it's going to be closer than I thought. I think it's going to be very close. We've still got a lot of
They
areas.
just called it for her. Usually if they call it, it'll not go well, sadly.
Yeah, I agree. But there are some places like the AP which are refusing to call it yet. We'll see. However, I do think it's likely it still goes. But it is interesting. We did just have another call. Ohio has been called for Trump. So that's
I did see that. I'm optimistic about that.
yeah.
I'd like to see us doing a little better in Pennsylvania though, but I know it's still early.
As would I. Yeah, I think Pennsylvania. Obviously, we would like to see a better result.
It's still going to be razor thin. Decision like 20 minutes ago put Trump at 72% odds for retaking. So
I'm sorry. Can you say the last part again? You broke up.
Decision Desk HQ just about 20 minutes ago put Trump at 72% likely for winning.
Okay. Good to know. Good update. I will say, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. Georgia is looking even more favorable for Trump than I expected. We have 70% in, and obviously stuff can change, and the cities will still have more vote dumps from the cities. But 71% of the votes in, and Trump leads by 6 in Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's reason for optimism in Georgia, especially, black vote, black turnout will be a larger factor in Georgia than it is in a lot of states. And I think black people are finally starting to wake up to the Democrats' lies. So I'm not too surprised that we're doing better than a lot of people said we would.
Yeah, so that's looking encouraging. So I just want, for the benefit of those who are listening, we've talked about the results a lot, so I'm going to take a brief break from that. But just for the benefit of those who are listening, you were poll watching today in 2 different locations.
Yeah.
For those who may not have done it before, what basically just kind of tell us what you did as a poll watcher.
Yeah, so I showed up. I just showed my papers from Katie's signature, that I'm an authorized poll watcher, and well, really both of them were pretty similar. I came and sat and watched pretty much. Just I observed the folks showing up, made sure everybody only got one ballot, made sure procedures were followed as normal, and that was the case in both places. I have no reason to think anything was awry here, as far as I could tell. Although some poll workers did not like me at the beginning, but what can you do?
You're a very likable guy. So
I know.
He admits begrudgingly. So yeah, we are up now in terms of called states. We're up at 137 for Trump, 99 for Harris. We should be getting vote tallies from Wisconsin and from Arizona shortly. If I'm not mistaken. Hold on just a second here. Yeah, Arizona should start to report shortly. First results out of Wisconsin does show Trump up by a lot, but that doesn't mean anything this early on. Michigan, we do have Harris leading by 7, but there's only 10% in. Pennsylvania, Harris leading by 21, but she was leading by 37 a few minutes ago, so it's starting to look more normal. Pennsylvania's going to tighten up. Would like to see it better there. As far as the Senate race in Ohio goes, obviously that's Moreno versus Brown. Bernie Moreno has trailed most of the night. He is now in the lead over Brown with a 2% lead, consistently trailing. Moreno is consistently trailing Trump by about 4%. Do you think he'll get over the finish line in Ohio?
We're gonna retake the Senate. The only question is, will we retake it to such an extent that we're outside of the range of rhino retardation?
Yes, I agree. So let's see here. Texas, Ted Cruz is polling away. Trump's up by 9 in Texas. Ted Cruz, as I figured, it was tied earlier. He's pulling away now. He's up 6. I was very impressed to see the results of Florida. So not only does Rick Scott win Florida by 13 points, Trump wins Florida by 13 points. And then we did have Amendment 3, which would have legalized marijuana in Florida, fall short by about 4 points. And Amendment 4, which would have legalized abortion up until like 26 weeks.
The baby killers and the hippies are not happy in Florida tonight.
Yeah. And I'm happy that they're not happy,
Same.
And we did just get a call. Texas has been called for Trump, unsurprisingly.
Awesome.
Put it up to 177.
And they were saying a little bit Texas could be at play. Like, dream another dream, guys.
Right. I will say, just out of curiosity, and I know like you said, the Hill has called it, not everywhere has called it, but Virginia is going to be very close, much more than I thought it was going to be. So that's definitely something to just keep an eye on.
What matters most to me for Virginia is the fact that if Trump does really well in Virginia, it could be good news for North Carolina as well.
Yeah, and I must say, I think there's actually a element of Mark Robinson legitimately dragging Donald Trump down the ballot, because Mark Robinson is performing horribly in North Carolina. His campaign completely tanked. Josh Stein's already been called for the governor of North Carolina. And so, however, Trump does currently lead by 5 in North Carolina. The only reason I have a little cause for concern there is the cities haven't reported as much as I thought, but Raleigh is 75% in, so that's obviously the big one you're worried about. And so, Georgia's still looking good, North Carolina looking decent, and if Trump keeps it under 2 or 3 in Virginia, then I think North Carolina unquestionably goes Trump, Georgia unquestionably goes Trump, Pennsylvania, Trump down just 19 now, 20% in, so it is closing.
Right.
New Hampshire looking like it's going to be pretty firm for Harris. Harris up 10 there. Still room for Trump to close the gap, but not likely.
New Hampshire probably will go to Harris at the end, but the early lead of 10, I don't think actually says much, because it's going to be close.
We do now have Trump closing the gap in Michigan to just 6 points, just a 6-point gap. And that is with Oakland, which is just north of Detroit, and Washtenaw, which is just west of Detroit, having 44 and 47% of their votes reported respectively. And most of the state has not reported yet, so that the rural part of the state. So Michigan is certainly in play for Trump, and as is Wisconsin and everything else. So before we go here, Andrew, I'll let you go. But just kind of gut feeling. How are you feeling about the evening?
I have to say, things are starting out pretty promising. My only concern is a little bit with Pennsylvania. Well, my only largest concern, that is. Um, Everywhere else though, it's looking pretty promising. Uh, I I don't want to get too excited, but I'm cautiously optimistic. Every Everything seems to be, you know, within reason here.
Yep, I agree. I think we're shaping up, and again, we haven't heard anything about um, shenanigans for the most part. Been very minor, unlike 2020. And I will say before I let you go, I just saw some early results from the Wisconsin Senate seat. Only 2% in, doesn't really matter. But I did talk to Ty Turner. He was on the stream earlier, as was James Black, and they were both feeling pretty confident about us. Not confident, but feeling optimistic about our chances of flipping the
Yeah.
Wisconsin Senate seat as well.
Give me 1 second. Let me check a source for you real quick.
Okay, go ahead. And let's see here. Should be up to date here with the Senate seats, if I'm not mistaken. 46-35. President, Trump's at 177 to Harris is 99. And in the House, we have 78 called for the Republicans, 56 for the Dems. So I'm going to 78 to 56. Update our ticker here at the bottom of the screen. And there we go. I was very
Okay, I'm back.
Go ahead.
Nothing. I wanted to check. Not the V's updates there, but it's just New York and Colorado getting called for camel face. So nothing. Nothing interesting yet.
Yep. Okay, doke. Yeah, well, I'm a little behind there on New York Times, and I'm gonna switch over so I can start catching up there as well.
All right.
So I appreciate your time, Andrew.
Yeah. Thanks for the invite.
Yep, absolutely appreciate it. Giving the viewers something to talk about or to listen to other than myself drone on.
Yeah.
So look forward to talking to you later in the evening. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of your night.
Sounds good. Take care.
Appreciate it. Okay, that was Andrew, guest analyst on Fight and Revive. Of course, if you want to find out more about the podcast, head over to fightandrevive.com. And while you're at it, too, if you're watching this on Facebook, if you would follow the Fight and Revive Facebook page, that would be fantastic. And then if you would, if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and give the channel a subscribe. I would very much appreciate it. We've got more content coming after this, always trying to do informative and entertaining interviews. Interviews you're not going to get literally anywhere else on YouTube. So subscribe for that. And then, of course, I always try to deliver the most conservative commentary online from a Christian perspective. So subscribe if you appreciate that and would like to keep up with that. And so with all that said, yeah, I also do have a couple at least one big episode coming out, hopefully very shortly, about Christianity and their involvement, Christians and their involvement in politics, kind of a big political thesis for me. So let's see what's going back on. Virginia, Trump still leading by 0.8%. Now, he did, Andrew mentioned while he was on here, that Virginia has been called by the Hill. However, I'm going by New York Times map here, also by the AP, and they have not called Virginia yet. So, yeah, I'm not real. I'm not gonna call anything yet as far as that goes. Things looking good generally around the country. We're getting cautiously optimistic for Republicans. Trump now down 17 in Pennsylvania. He is closing that gap with lots of time to go. Michigan 10-point game. Not that big a deal. 63,852 votes for Trump in Wisconsin. Just updated. To Harris is 43,000, so just 3% of the votes. That's all those numbers are. So, not real concerned about that. Georgia, Trump still leading by 6. North Carolina, Trump leading by 1 with 50% in. Virginia, Trump close as well. That's going about how I predicted early in the morning that it would. So let's see here. Iowa, Kamala currently leading. Don't worry about that. You see Des Moines, Polk County reporting first. Trump's not going to lose Iowa. Do not panic about anything like that. New Hampshire, Trump's still down by 11. Kamala very likely to win New Hampshire. No big deal there. That was expected coming into the night. So let's see if we have anything else to catch up on before we take another break. Again, please feel free. I love to interact with y'all. Go to the comments on Facebook or YouTube and let me know what you think. Who's going to win the presidential election? Which party is going to control the Senate? Which party is going to control the House? Things are looking decent in the Senate and even the House for the GOP. And presidency, I can't say things are looking bad. I can't say they're looking great either. So it's just, we'll see who exactly comes out on top. I'd like to hear what y'all have to say. So let's go ahead and I'm going to throw this back up on the screen. We're going to make sure, indeed, Arizona not reporting yet, but they did close. The polls did close. Our next round of poll closings, by the way, are at 10 o'clock. There's nothing at 9:30. That will be Montana, Idaho, Utah, and Nevada. So we're going to edit our ticker real quick. Polls closing at 10 o'clock. Will be Idaho, Montana, Nevada, and Utah. Idaho, Montana, Utah, Nevada. And of course, Nevada is the only one of those states which is a swing state in the presidential election. Montana is one to really keep your eye on, though, because really keep your eye on that because we do have a very important Senate race there. And Paul, I appreciate the compliment from you on YouTube. Very much appreciate that. Yes, I cannot stress how much I do appreciate getting positive comments like that on my videos or in the live chat or whatever. So thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate it. So I said polls closing now. It's 9:30, so I need to go ahead and update that ticker real quick to next poll closing. And obviously, in, let me think, I think that was in Idaho and a little bit of Oregon. Most of Idaho and a little bit of Oregon. The polls are closing at 10. There's a little bit of Idaho and most of Oregon that close at 11 o'clock rather than 10. So let's make sure we're up to date here with our electoral map. 177 call for Trump, 99 for Harris. This is by the New York Times and Associated Press. That's what I'm going off of for the calls, 177 to 99. The GOP currently is sitting at 46 Senate seats to the Dems 35. And in the House, let's go ahead and get an update on the House. The House, the Republicans lead 83 to 59 in the House of Representatives. So we'll go ahead and update our ticker. 83 to 59 in the House for the GOP. How that is going to go is still anybody's guess. And of course, our battleground states are, in case you are not aware, Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. So keep an eye on all those states, including, with the way the night's going, probably not anything to really watch for in these states in terms of if anything is going to flip. But just do keep an eye on Minnesota, New Mexico, New Hampshire, and Virginia. We'll do that. We did just get a call, yes, for Nebraska's 3rd congressional district for Trump. They're starting to call Nebraska now. So, yeah, Nebraska's District 1 will go for Trump. District 2 will go for Harris. 3 will go for Trump. And the state as a whole will go for Trump. So, let's see here. That's 178. We'll go ahead and update our ticker. Again, we'll be doing this several times. But as long as we got a break, we'll go ahead and update it. So let's see what else we've got here. Kamala still leading in Kansas and Missouri. That obviously will not hold. In Georgia, 76% in. Trump up by 5. So that is going to hopefully hold. I think we could very well see a 5-point Trump victory there. We'll see if that holds. North Carolina, Trump up by 3, 55% in. Trump still leading in Virginia, 58% in. Again, I'm not optimistic about that holding, especially since we already have a couple outlets calling it, but not entirely impossible. Trump keeps it really close in yeah, we'll see what happens with Virginia. Pennsylvania, Trump down now by just 15. Again, he's closing that gap. Michigan down by 8, but again, 50% out of Oakland, 49% out of Washtenaw. So, yeah, I don't think there's really anything to worry about right now for either side. I think you still want to be Trump if you're in this race. If you're Trump or Harris, I think you still want to be Trump. Colorado not officially called. That's going to go to Harris. New Mexico, very likely to go for Harris. Keep an eye on New Mexico just because there is a very, very slight chance Trump could come close in New Mexico. So just keep an eye on that race. And we will do that. Let's see here. I think this is about 9:28. No closings at 9:30. So I think this is about as good as any time to take a break. I'm not going to end the stream and then start a new one. I'm just going to leave this one running. So we're going to go ahead, just leave this up on the screen. We'll have the ticker going there at the bottom. And you see the battleground states. We have all that. So I'm going to step aside for a moment, but I'll be back momentarily. So don't go anywhere. Again, feel free to throw your comments in the comment section box, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. I really do appreciate it. I've had a couple folks commenting so far. I do appreciate it. Appreciate the compliments, even the criticisms. Let me know what y'all think. I'll be back momentarily. Behold, we are back with a couple of faithful viewers still sticking in there waiting for me. I appreciate that, guys. So, yes, indeed, we are back. I am working with getting one probably final guest on the show now. That would be Luke Boyer, my cousin. We do have another big batch of poll closings on the horizon here at 9:45 now, or just shy of 9:45. The next batch of poll closings will be at 10. We'll probably give it till about 10:30. I'm going to have to call it quits on this live stream because I'm not in my normal studio, as you can tell. And so I have a drive, and then just got to get everything torn down. So we're going to call it quits about 10:30. But I do want to start getting results from the 10 o'clock closings first. So let's check out our ticker, see how we're doing in the House. We've got 92 for the GOP to 69 to the Democrats. 92 GOP, 69 Democrats. And then as far as the Senate goes, have we seen anything additional there yet? 46-35 in the Senate. That's the same. And then do we have any additional calls for the presidency that I've missed? 178 for Trump, 99 for Harris. Okie doke, we are good to go. There we go. Go ahead and take down our battleground states. And of course, don't forget, leave your thoughts in the comments. Let me know how you're feeling. I am seeing now that Newsmax is projecting that Trump has won North Carolina. Now, we're going to wait on that because, again, I've been following the AP and the New York Times, who are usually pretty reliable in terms of results. They're not reliable in their news coverage, but they're generally pretty reliable in terms of results. So we're going to wait on calling that. Virginia, I know the Hill called. That may be intentional by them because Fox has not called Virginia, AP's not called Virginia, New York Times has not called Virginia. So I mean, it's certainly interesting. My home county of Campbell right now, 50-point victory for Trump, which I was not expecting, I must admit. Even better than that, a little bit better than that in Bedford, which is just crazy. I'd like to find. I don't know why I'm not saying Lynchburg on this map. There it is. Again, still nothing from Lynchburg. I do not know why we can't report our results in Lynchburg anymore. Yes. I mean, I don't know. You can't be feeling great right now. If you're Kamala Harris about Virginia, if nothing else, because as Andrew pointed out, Virginia can be indicative of how the rest of the country is going. North Carolina, again, probably going to go to Trump. Georgia should follow suit. I've been told, I've heard, I believe the case is that Pennsylvania counts their mail-in votes and stuff like that first, which would explain why Trump was down so big at first and all that, but it's now just a 5-point game with 33% in. And it's much more like we were expecting to see now. 60% of the votes in from Allegheny. Trump's much nearer to that 40% that James mentioned that he's gonna have to have there. And Philadelphia, of course, that whole area is strong for Harris. In Wisconsin, Kamala just barely leading there. I haven't checked on that in a while. Around Madison, we've got 43% in. Kamala leading pretty big right there. In the Green Bay area, Trump is leading. That's not quite as big. Milwaukee, Trump winning. Waukesha County, Kenosha, of course, that was in the news a lot a couple years back. And then Harris up in Milwaukee. So yeah, plenty of time indeed for things to change. Fear not about Missouri and Trump being barely ahead in Kansas, barely ahead in, way down in Missouri. That's not going to last. New Mexico should go to Harris, but she's not leading a lot right now. New Hampshire, Trump down 13. That one's been called by Fox, I believe, and that's pretty safe to assume. So I don't think that the Harris campaigns anything to worry about in New Hampshire. 3-point lead now for Harris in Pennsylvania. Things are definitely tightening. Let's check out here, see if we're missing anything. Let's check out the Senate race. We haven't checked those in a while. Still can't believe Rick Scott and Trump won by 13 in Florida. That's just crazy. Nebraska's one of their races has been called. The other one I know there's really a lot of confusion going on in that Nebraska Senate race, but I think the Republican is still going to win that. Deb Fisher, that's her name. That's right. Eric Hovde keeping in track right now with Trump in Wisconsin. If Trump wins Wisconsin, Hovde might very well. Michigan, we've got a 9-point lead for Slotkin. Roger trailing some behind Trump, but not bad, I don't think. And let's see here. Pennsylvania, Dave McCormick still trailing Trump a little bit, if I recall that correctly. Yeah, trailing Trump by about a point. Not the end of the world, though. And we are about to have Luke on the show, so give me just a second here, and we're going to bring in Luke. Get this banner up, and I will be back in just a moment. So hold up, we're going to get another interview. I am being told, just hearing from some folks who are much wiser and just know more about what they're talking about, to be completely honest, than I do, that things are looking pretty decent for us. I don't know exactly. I could be on Twitter right now or True Social just trying to follow every single little detail. It's just so much to keep up with. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to kind of tell you things how I see it. Watch the results come in. I'm going to try to give my best opinion based off the various counties and all that. But I am being told that the Senate is going to flip, which I expected. Looking like we may hold the House, quite possibly. And it is starting to feel like Trump is going to win this. I said a minute ago, I think it's obvious that you want to be Trump in this scenario. You don't want to be Harris right now. So we'll see. It's certainly too early to call, but it is not looking bad right now. And we will see if we have anything left on in Lynchburg. Let's see. Do we have anything ever in Lynchburg? No, we still do not. Wow. In the U.S. House of Representatives, McGuire is up 19 points on Gloria Witt, so he's going to win that race. Jen Kiggins is going to win her reelection, it would appear. And probably the Dems hold CD 10, it would appear. Maybe not, but very likely. So let's see if we are missing anything else here. Again, at 10 o'clock, Montana, Idaho, Utah, Nevada closed. Montana big for the Senate race. Nevada a big a swing state, but not a big one in that either side can win without Nevada, so it's not the end of the world. For either side, if they lose Nevada, it'd be good for the GOP, just be a good sign. Again, Moreno back up on top in Ohio. That's a big one. He looks to be on track to flip that. I don't think he's gonna lose the lead again in Ohio. From what I'm seeing, it's already been called for Trump, and I don't think that he has. Moreno has a whole lot to worry about, and as a matter of fact, it wouldn't surprise me at all if we hear him declaring victory shortly. That would not surprise me in the slightest. So, Luke will be joining us here in just a moment. Should be within 30 seconds here. We're trying to get him connected now. Go ahead and put this up on the screen. I just realized I had not had myself on the screen. We want to keep our ticker up. And like I said, Luke will be here in just a moment. Let's see here. I'm not. And we do have an additional call now. What has been called? Something has been called for Trump. I'm trying to figure out what it is. Based on the Associated Press, New York Times has the same results I have on the screen here. Let's see. What is called for Trump? With 10 electoral votes. What am I missing? Sorry, trying to communicate with Luke at the same time. Was it? It was Missouri. That's what it is. Missouri has been called for Trump. They still have not called Kansas, interestingly. But Missouri has been called for Trump by the Associated Press. That's not quite the New York Times yet, but it's good enough for me. We'll go ahead and give Trump Missouri as expected. There we go. And let me go ahead and get Luke on. Okay, let's see here. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Wisconsin, Kamala narrowly leading there. And I think that startled me there, but that should be it. Okie doke, and that should be it. Luke, I can hear you now.
Excellent. Thanks for having me on.
There we go. Yeah, absolutely. So we did just get another call for Trump. Missouri has been called, which puts it up at 188. Kansas has actually not been called yet due to a close race there, closer than expected because of Kansas City reporting early. But that's going to be called for him as well. But we did just get our latest call being Missouri. Trump is now at 188 to Harris is 99. Next set of polls close at 10 p.m. That is Utah, Nevada, Idaho, and Montana. And, of course, Montana big for the Senate race. Tim Sheehy up there versus John Tester. And then Nevada, an important swing state, not so much as some of the others because of the low 6 electoral vote total. But you do have it'll be a sign for whichever party that it might be a good night for them if they can win Nevada. And then Arizona, we are not getting the polls did close at 9, where we should have our first results from Arizona in a moment. Just to kind of help you get your bearings right now, 34% in Wisconsin. Both candidates are exactly tied with percentage. Trump down 8 in Michigan, but he has been closing the gap with just 13% in, and cities largely reporting in Michigan. It sounds like mail-in and absentee votes and stuff like that was counted first in Pennsylvania. So Trump was down big early there. Now up at 40% of the votes are in. Trump trails Harris by just 1.5 in Pennsylvania. In Virginia, although The Hill has called Virginia, neither Fox nor the Associated Press nor New York Times have called Virginia. And with 65% of votes in Virginia, I want to key in on this because I know obviously you'll be able to comment on this. With 65% of the votes in, Trump still leads Harris by 2 points. This is with Loudoun County. Trump only losing Loudoun County by 17. That's been fully reported almost. Fairfax County has been largely reported, almost 3/4 of Fairfax. Prince William County has been almost completely reported. Trump leads in Virginia Beach. He's winning Southwest Virginia by huge margins. He's won Campbell County by nearly 50 points, where me and you are, which I was not expecting. He's won Bedford by an 81-18 margin. Botetourt, 70-27. Same in Pulaski, just all sorts of stuff like that down in Southwest Virginia. And so it's still not a likely scenario, but Virginia is going to be very tight. And if you're Harris's campaign, you can't be comfortable right now, even if you're not really fearing losing the state. It's not a good feeling that it's this close. So, what do you think? There's any chance that Virginia ends up going red this year?
Well, here's the thing. I don't really see a Trump win, and I think, as you know, you and I knowing kind of the geography, excuse me, of the state, just how things lie. We've got big liberal areas still to come in. I mean, you look at a map of Virginia, and we're sprinkled with pretty bulletproof Democrat strongholds. You've got places like Richmond. You've got places like Charlottesville. A lot of places heavy vote of out of touch white collar Democrats. You've got places lower income places like Danville, heavy black vote. Um, Stuff to keep in mind, but I do think that Trump's results in Virginia so far are encouraging if you're the Trump campaign, and more than a little bit unnerving if you're the Harris campaign. Looking at it from a very broad scale, if Trump is close in Virginia, I mean, even in his best year, 2016, that he didn't really even sniff. What does that mean for the rest of the country?
Yeah.
I served today on behalf of Campbell County as an election official, basically overseeing the vote, at one of my local precincts. And what I've seen from that precinct and across the county is a historically high turnout. And you saw the same thing, earlier this morning as you were doing some volunteer work. But really, really historically high turnout. And I've got some data for you here from 2020. The precinct I was at, Kings Precinct in rural Campbell County, just a very small sample size, obviously. 911 votes cast total. The majority of those being for Trump. This year, what we've seen, 900 today, only in same day voting. Same day voting. Ballots cast on election day, not counting early votes, not counting provisionals, aka same day registration, not counting mail-ins, absentees, that sort of thing. So we're and even just today, what I saw in my time as election official there was well over 30 some provisional ballots cast on that day. So we're seeing an increase that is above and beyond what we saw in 2020, which was a high turnout year. And again, very small sample size, very red, very rural area. But we've seen the same across a lot of the state. I'm hearing from some people, even on the other side of the country in Arizona, heavy turnout in Maricopa County. There's a lot of places that are seeing a lot of historically conservative places that are seeing really heavy turnout, and that gives me optimism. Obviously, we've got to worry about some swing states. Excuse me. We've got to worry about states like Pennsylvania, North Carolina. Apparently, has been called for Trump by a couple different outlets, which, as you know, is huge. Ohio has been called for Trump. Trump leads handily right now in Georgia. Now, I am unsure about what has been and has not been counted in Georgia. You've got to take into account places like Atlanta, obviously. Again, a lot of low-income minority voters. But it is interesting to see. I think we're seeing pretty historically high turnout in conservative areas among conservative voters, and I think that gives me optimism, and that's something that I think you're going to see definitely play a big role throughout the night.
Yeah, I agree. I will say Georgia's looking very good, as is North Carolina. Trump leads by actually exact same margin, 52-47 in both states. And it's looking very good. 77% in Georgia, 67% in North Carolina. One could argue Trump would be doing even better in North Carolina if Mark Robinson wasn't perhaps dragging him down, even maybe with his just horribly, self-imploded campaign. Before we move on,
I actually haven't looked at the Robinson campaign results. What are you saying about those?
I've just it's been kind of become a story. I don't even know the specifics, but Robinson I think old recordings came of him and just all sorts of stuff, which just completely tanked this campaign. So they called Josh Stein's race with like an hour in.
Yeah.
It was impressively bad, actually. I will say before we move on from Virginia, again, to your point, 66% of votes in Virginia. Loudoun, over 95% is reported. Fairfax, 73% is reported. Prince William, 95% is reported. Richmond, 20% is reported. Not quite as high of a just raw number though. Area. Charlottesville, over 95% reported. Albemarle, just shy of 50% reported. Roanoke, 74% reported. Trump only trailing Roanoke 63-35, actually. Danville, Trump down 21, but that's a very small raw vote margin.
Yep.
Only a 4,000 vote margin, plus 95% in. So I'm certainly not about to predict a Trump win here, but with him still leading by 51,000 or a 2-point margin, I don't think it's entirely impossible that we see a Trump upset tonight in Virginia.
No, I would definitely agree, and that of course puts into play, Trump. That's I don't know how many electoral votes we have in Virginia.
13.
13. I was thinking 14. 13. You're right. But I mean those if by God's grace we were to miraculously pull out a win in Virginia, that's electoral votes we weren't counting on. That makes the big swing states not unimportant, but we can breathe a little bit easier. So I do think you're right. I think this is like these areas that are 95% reporting, as you mentioned earlier, Charlottesville. I mean, just from the time we've spent, with other operatives around the state, just heavily bulletproof blue area.
Yeah.
But all reported. I mean, I don't think it's out of the question. I'm not going to predict it. I wouldn't put money on it. Just because also for me, having grown up in the past 12 years of Blue Virginia, it does seem a little bit too good to be true.
Mm-hmm. No,
But
I understand.
I do think that you're right. It's possible. I'm in the same boat as you. I'm not gonna go out and predict it. But he's doing better than I thought, and I would love to see a Trump win. And I do think it's possible.
So as we speak, before I let you go here, Pennsylvania has now tightened to a 0.1% margin. 49.6 Harris, 49.5% Trump. Michigan's now just a 2-point deficit for Trump with 18% in. Trump holds the lead by about half a point in Wisconsin, 37% in. We just got a huge vote dump from Arizona, 36% in. Maricopa County is starting to report. Arizona is the difference of 40 votes right now in that
Good
state.
there.
However, Maricopa County, Trump trails Harris by just 2 points with 54% in.
Wow.
And that's obviously the most populated county in the state. Trump leads in Pinal County, which is southeast of Phoenix. The rest of the state is not reported. The rest of the state will go to Trump. So Arizona's looking very good for Trump at the moment. Georgia now 83% in. Trump's lead holds steady at 5. I would expect Georgia to be called momentarily.
Yep, very soon for sure.
North Carolina 68% in. Trump leads by 5. Pennsylvania, again, within a point.
I would also expect to see them call North Carolina here shortly. And again, because there are liberal areas. Obviously, you've got Raleigh, you've got other liberal areas like that. But it's not like North Carolina has never been a safe state for the Democrats, and I do think that with the numbers you're seeing and the the demographics you're seeing out of North Carolina, I would not only expect Trump's lead to hold throughout the end of the counting, but I would expect it to be convincing enough that it's called here within the next hour at least.
Yes. So last thing real quick before I move on, worth mentioning in Utah, John Curtis, that race has been called for him. He is the Senate candidate in Utah. Worth mentioning, Mitt Romney obviously was not running for re-election, so he'll be gone from the Senate to everybody's delight, except perhaps Democrats. But he'll be gone from the Senate, and the Utah Republican candidate is going to win that. Montana, of course, big Senate race coming up there. Too early to call there. We only have a couple percent in. Josh Hawley locked in a surprisingly tight one in Missouri. I'm sure he'll pull it out. St. Louis and Kansas City have already reported it into a large extent, so Hawley should pull away largely. In Virginia, Tim Kaine still only leads the Republican challenger Hung Cao by 2 points. I came into the night, as I said in the live stream earlier, what is that? I mean, 3 hours ago, predicting Hung Cao to lose this thing by 10 points. So
I would have been right there with you a few hours ago.
Bob Casey leads Dave McCormick in Pennsylvania by just 0.9 points. Ohio, Bernie Moreno now leads Sherrod Brown by 5. And with the state already called for Trump, there's no reason that should change, which means as soon as Ohio is called, and as soon as it becomes official, but for all intents and purposes, once Ohio was called, Republicans have retaken the Senate because West Virginia was called immediately for Jim Justice.
Yep.
Michigan, Mike Rogers trails Alyssa Slotkin by 5, but Trump is also trailing in Michigan. There's only 17%, so there's lots to come there. Wisconsin, Eric Hovde actually does lead the Democrat Tammy Baldwin there with 41% in. So, and then in Arizona, Kari Lake currently down. I mean, that's just crazy. Kari Lake down 8 points in Arizona right now, as Trump is tied with Kamala.
Yeah, I've long been of the opinion that Kari Lake was not a great candidate, at least in this election cycle. I do hope she can win though, but I don't expect her to without a drastically good Trump showing in that state. But we will. There was a lot of questions. There was a lot of questions last election about the legitimacy of a lot of the goings on in Arizona, specifically in Maricopa County, surrounding Kari Lake's race. But that aside, I don't expect to see Kari Lake win. But I think it's possible if Trump does surprisingly well there, which he's doing in states like Virginia as we speak. So I wouldn't give up on the race quite yet.
Yeah, so we will definitely see. I think it does look unlikely that Lake pulls it out. However, that would mean, as of right now, just before I let you go, to give you a quick update, that means we're gonna have currently right now Trump holds the lead over Harris 198 to 109. Keep in mind that lead will evaporate as soon as we get results from Washington, Oregon, and California and Hawaii. That's not going to hold, obviously. New Mexico is tight right now. Obviously, Harris is expected to win it, but in recent days, especially with a heavy Hispanic vote, if you believe the polls going toward the GOP, New Mexico is one to watch, along with Minnesota, New Hampshire, and Virginia. I said coming in the night, New Hampshire has been called by some outlets for Harris, but so currently Trump leads 198 to 109 over Harris in the Senate. The Republicans have 47 to 36 over the Dems, and I'm not calling anything officially until either I see the Associated Press or New York Times do it, or perhaps Fox. But for all intents and purposes, Bernie Moreno has flipped Ohio for the Republicans. So the GOP is going to end the night. I can call, if I'm going to use the term, the GOP is going to end the night with the Senate will be ours. And from what I'm hearing, we had Tyler Turner and James Black on earlier in the evening. I'm also seeing additional text now. The map is looking favorable for the GOP to hold the House as well. So looking a little bit rocky to start the evening, but for now, it does appear like things are going well. And yeah, going to be an interesting rest of the night. Luke, I appreciate you for coming on. As we speak, by the way, Trump did just take the lead in Harris with Trump did just take the lead in Pennsylvania with 50% of the vote in even. So Georgia, again, 84% in, Trump up 5. That should be called momentarily. North Carolina, 70% in, Trump up 5. Virginia, 70% in, Trump leads by 1. So I'm not calling a Republican victory here. I still don't think it's going to happen. I think, like you said, smart money says no, but it's not impossible. Trump's also taking the lead in Arizona. So I'll keep you updated throughout the night. Luke, thank you for coming on. If there's anything else you want to add real quick, feel free to.
I think that's it. Thank you for having me on, and let's all just keep praying.
I agree. Thank you so much, Luke. I'll talk to you later.
All right, have a good night.
Bye-bye. Appreciate it. Okay, so we've now had we mentioned Tyler Turner, we mentioned James Black, we mentioned Andrew Rousseau. Now we've had Luke Boyer. I was hoping, I was hoping to have Delegate Zaire on this evening, but it does appear that he is going to be unavailable this evening. Unfortunately, he was working for quite some time. So as I readjust my headset here, we're going to mention right now. So again, North Carolina and Georgia should be called for Trump, I would think, momentarily. Virginia is still very tight. Rust Belt's looking interesting. So yeah, it's all coming down to the wire here as we expected. Let me go ahead and update this ticker. We're probably gonna give this thing about another 10, 15 minutes. I don't want to leave just as the results are getting good, but I can't be up here until all these different races are called, or I would be here until 1 or 2 a.m. and I can't be up for 24 hours straight. I just can't do it. To quote Congressman Good, we're Republicans, so we work. Let's see here. Trump has taken the lead in Iowa again. I mentioned that earlier. That no need to worry about that. Wisconsin very close. Michigan, Trump's tightening. Pennsylvania, Trump now leads. New Mexico, Trump leads. That's probably not going to hold. Arizona, Trump leads. Georgia, North Carolina should hold. Virginia, who knows at this point. Skeptic in me still says no. The optimist in me says maybe. Let's check our results real quick. 198 for Trump, 109 for Harris right now. Let's check our Senate and make sure we've updated the Senate correctly. For our ticker, 47 to 36. And I had not gotten a couple safe seats there, I believe. 47 to 36 in the Senate. And then in the House, Republicans are at I'm way behind. 121 for the GOP in the House, 82 for the Dems. 82 for the Dems, 121 for the GOP. There we go. So there we go. Headline of the night. Virginia is in play. And I must admit, I made fun of those who said Virginia was in play leading this election. And I'm kind of shocked because I still don't think it's going to go for Trump, but it's much closer than I would have expected. For sure. And Trump's lead is seemingly slowly evaporating as we get more and more votes in. Again, not at all surprising. But we'll see what continues to happen here as the rest of the state continues to report their votes. I'm seeing here, it does appear that the votes pretty much from this conservative rural southwest parts of Virginia are pretty much drying up. The reporting is pretty much taking place. So looks like, again, Trump is going to fall just short in Virginia, I would guess by 1 or 2 points, but still very good results nonetheless for him in Virginia, in a state where he probably should have lost more like 4 or 5. So, yeah, you see Arizona there. That's going to keep going back and forth. Arizona, 51% of their votes in already. That's crazy. Yeah, we see there it says officials in Maricopa County said full tabulation can take 10 to 13 days. That shouldn't change anything. There should be very few votes, but keep that in mind as the night wears on, that we don't know exactly how fast the votes are all going to get counted. So, let's see if we have anything yet from the Montana Senate race. And we do not. Nothing from the Montana Senate race yet. Things looking decent for Hovde in Wisconsin. That's going to be a very close race. Yeah, very close. All these races, keep an eye on them. Noah Dominici, fun race. Not going to win it, though. Can't believe how bad Carrie Lake is doing. That's just, that amazes me. So, let me see here. I'm going to go ahead and put you on mute one more time before we call it quits for the evening. I'm going to go ahead and see if we can't get one more last second guest lined up here to offer you some real kind of just unique, dare I say, some insight. The guy I have in mind is he just has a knack for predicting political things. He often gets them right. So hold on just a second. I'm going to see if I can get one more guest on the show. And then if not, we'll go ahead and call it quits for the evening. But I'm going to keep an eye on these results now. Be right back. Okie doke. We should have one final guest here in a moment, and that would be we're gonna bring in someone who I've never had comment on Fight and Revive before, and that would be my father. And just to give you a little bit of background on him, his name is Tim Boyer, obviously. Last name Boyer, great last name. And he has served in all sorts of various roles in the local Republican Party and in all sorts of stuff. Virginia's 5th Congressional District, Republican Party back in the day. So he's calling in now. He really knows what he's talking about when it comes to political insight. He has live updates for us. I'm going to call him, bring him in now. Okay, doke. I got you connected. Can you hear me?
I got you.
Okay, doke. Very good. So right now, following along with the results, and things are looking up for Trump, really, in Arizona, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and even Michigan. He's closing the gap. Georgia and North Carolina, I expect to be called by the AP and New York Times momentarily. Virginia looks like it's going to be extremely close. I'm still guessing we see Kamala pull out by 1 to 2 points, as we have just looking at the remaining counties which need to be reported. So let's start there. What do you think? What do you see for Virginia the rest of the night?
Okay, so Virginia still has a lot of Northern Virginia, especially Fairfax, to report. Trump's lead is too small. It's about 1.5 percentage points. There's still a little bit of rural vote out, but it's not enough. When all is said and done, she'll win Virginia somewhere between 2 to 4 percentage points, I think. And this happens almost every election cycle. People get all excited because the Republican candidate leads right up until the very end. But Fairfax is almost always the last significant locality to report. And keep in mind, the 5 localities that make up Northern Virginia, out of the 122 total Virginia localities, are 60% of the state's population, and all heavily Democrat. So while Harris did underperform Biden very badly in Loudoun County, I think by like 9 points, and Loudoun, I think, is our largest county, she underperformed him by 9, but it's which is reflective of how much worse I think she's doing in suburbia all over the country than Biden did. But it's not going to swing Virginia. There's just too much left out in the heavy Democrat areas.
So, yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing. Fairfax, yeah, we have 26%, give or take, of the vote left to come in Fairfax. North Carolina and Georgia, Trump holds a 7-point lead in North Carolina, 5 in Georgia.
Yeah, the networks are derelict in duty and not calling that. A lot of the online sources like Decision Desk Headquarters and others, I think maybe even Fox News, has already called North Carolina, and one outlet has recently called Georgia for Trump. Those are in the bag. I mean, at this point, the Democrats and the media are grasping at straws because they really needed to flip one of those to make Harris's path to victory I don't want to say legitimate path. She still has that. But to give her any type of a decent likelihood, they needed to flip one of those. And it's not happening. Those are in the bag for Trump. Georgia and North Carolina are done.
So Pennsylvania, obviously 19 electoral votes. That's one of the really big ones. We got 55% of the vote in Pennsylvania. Trump went from, before I say this, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't it the mostly early and absentee and mail-in ballots getting counted first in?
That's correct. Most of the states do that. Most of them have their early absentee mail-ins. A lot of the states have them totaled before the election, and they just report those immediately. So that's why often you will see whichever party is doing well in the early vote, you'll see them jump out to a quick lead in a lot of these states, and that's been the same case tonight. There's one key there that I'm looking at in the U.S. Senate race there. And I'm not optimistic that we're going to beat Bob Casey the way it's looking from McCormick. I think he comes up a little bit short. But Casey's county, I think it's Lackawanna, I believe, which is a big Democrat county, and he shellacked McCormick in his own in Casey's home county, as you would expect. Mm-hmm. But that county is done reporting, and that's a big Democrat county. So I think where Harris still has a little bit of hope is in the Philly suburbs, Pittsburgh suburbs, although not nearly as much as at Philly. But Trump is doing so much better with Latino voters that I don't think Harris has enough left in Pennsylvania. I don't think she's going to do it. I think it's going to be Trump in a squeaker. I could be wrong. I'm not confident in that. But just looking at it now, I mean, things are coming in his way. the rural stuff's beginning to report, and Trump has taken
Yeah.
the lead. So I think I see Pennsylvania going to Trump in a very tight one.
Yeah, and at this point, there's only 20% of Pittsburgh left to come in, give or take. Trump's right at 38%, which is right where I talked to James Black earlier, who is close with Tyler Turner. He was also on the show earlier on the live
Okay.
stream, and he's saying Trump needs to be right around 40 in the Pittsburgh area. He's at 38. Philadelphia, Trump's still down reasonably big. There are some still counties to come in there, there are still some decent margins to come in there, like you mentioned. But the real big one is Philadelphia County, and that is 50% reported. There's a lot of rural stuff left to report, like you said, and Lackawanna, like you just mentioned, Casey's home county. Harris carried that by 3 points.
Yeah.
And
So
she
yeah,
carried that by
that's
3.
my point. I
Bob
think
Casey's up there. Bob Casey actually only leads it by 8, so he really did not overperform, or she did not underperform that much. I'll get to the Senate race in a second, but go up and say what you were saying about the presidency.
Yeah, I think that Trump is doing so much better in suburbia this time around that the Philly suburbs I don't think are going to be quite as fruitful for her as they were for Biden. I mean, if Loudoun County is any indication, and it has to be at least some indication reflective nationwide, because Virginia is very difficult for Republicans. If Trump's doing that well in Loudoun compared to 4 years ago, then it has to reflect at least to some degree in the Philly suburbs as well, I think, because it's a similar electorate to Loudoun and Northern Virginia. So I don't. Again, I don't want to go out on a limb and say I think for sure Trump's going to win, but I think Pennsylvania favors him at this point from what I've seen thus far. I
So
just
we
think
just
there's
got
enough rural and lightly suburban vote left out there that will favor Trump that I think he can get across the top. I don't think McCormick will, but I'd like to
move.
see it, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, Georgia at this point still 3 points lead, 3 points favoring Trump, 91% and now still not called by most outlets, but Trump leads by 6 in North Carolina. Kamala has taken the lead in Virginia, just as you predicted, with 73% left. So yeah, I think you're
Yeah.
looking at the 2 to 4 point margin, like you said. In Michigan, big news though. New York Times just updated their rating of Michigan to lean Republican.
Wow.
Kamala leads there by 0.7 points. But listen to this: she leads by 0.7 points with 22% of the vote in. However, Oakland County, just northwest of Detroit, 64% of the votes in. Washtenaw County, just west of Detroit, 65% of the votes in. That has Ann Arbor in it.
Yep.
So
which takes care of University of Michigan and a lot of that. So I mean, a
we
lot
have
of that's already reported.
Several rural areas that's not even started to report yet. Other ones that are only just beginning to report.
On the Michigan, if I can interrupt for a quick second, on the Michigan front, and I realize now exit polls are notoriously unreliable, but some have shed a little bit of light on some of the returns we've already seen as being at least partially accurate. And one that was notable out of Michigan was Trump actually winning with younger voters, according to exit polls. If that's the case, then yeah, I think Trump's got a good shot there.
Yeah, this is
because that's historically a strong Democrat voting bloc. Even if Trump doesn't win them, if he keeps it close, he probably wins the state.
New Hampshire, that's interesting about Michigan. I'm bouncing around the map here. Michigan, though, or New Hampshire was called early, only 4 electoral votes. Trump is gaining late there, though, with 45% of the vote left to come. So that New Hampshire will be worth keeping an eye on. But it is worth noting, too, Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Michigan were all rated toss-ups going into the evening, if I'm not mistaken. Pennsylvania and Wisconsin are still ranked toss-ups by New York Times. New York Times are now rating Michigan as lean Republican. In Wisconsin, Trump leads by a point. There, 50% in. Most of Dane County, which has Madison, has reported about 3/4 of that. Milwaukee, about half of it is reported, and we're going to have a lot of rural vote out. What is Wisconsin looking like to you?
Yeah. I think Brett Favre's endorsement last week was probably helpful to him there. Not many celebrities carry a whole lot of endorsement power, but certain celebrities in specific areas, like Brett Favre for Wisconsin, I do think that was a valuable endorsement for Trump. I really do.
And last big swing state here, we don't have anything from Nevada yet. Last big swing state here, Arizona. Trump now leads by 0.2 points in Arizona, 53% in. Get this, Maricopa County, Kamala Harris leads in Maricopa County with 54% of Maricopa, obviously by far the biggest county with Phoenix in the state. Kamala Harris leads Trump by 24,000 votes or 2%.
Wow.
So if
I knew
that
that
and
was going to be close.
that's held steady, and if Maricopa's within that margin, I don't see her overcoming the rest of the state. In Arizona, that is.
Yeah, I don't know. I actually kind of lean toward Trump winning Arizona.
That's what I meant.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, yeah. Maricopa, he did so well in Maricopa in the early vote. He actually won the early vote in Maricopa. The fact that she's leading there, though, tells me that might have been some pirating of election day votes for Trump. Nobody expected him to win Maricopa. Let's be clear about that. That was never going to happen. But he needs to hit a certain margin there. And then what happens in Pima County, those are the two big ones.
Yep.
If my memory serves me correctly. I still think Arizona and Nevada both also slightly favor Trump. I really do,
Yep.
because he did so well in the early vote. That just doesn't happen. Republicans don't. Now, I realize they pushed it hard. The GOP pushed the early voting much harder. So it does remain to be seen how much of that is people voting that wouldn't have otherwise, and how much of it is pirated from election day votes. But if it follows the trends of other states where Trump is winning these close ones, but last time around he lost the close ones. Tonight the trend is he's winning them. So I'm cautiously optimistic for him.
As I start to wrap up here, is it possible tonight, do you think we see New Mexico follow a similar trend to Virginia in probably not flipping for Trump, but coming close? As I'm looking at the numbers here, Trump currently leads slightly in New Mexico with 37% in, with Santa Fe, three-quarters of the way reported. Kamala leading big there, obviously. And Doña Ana County, which is another one of the big ones, I believe, has Las Cruces in it. She leads by 5 there. And then I guess it's probably likely going to come down to Albuquerque, I would assume. But there's a lot of rural part of the state left to report. And even the Senate candidate there, last I checked, was not faring that badly. So there's a lot of talk about how Hispanics are swinging hard toward the GOP this cycle. New Mexico being the only Hispanic majority state in the country. Is there any chance we see New Mexico come Virginia level close to flipping or outright flipping?
I don't think there's any chance it outright flips. I don't think there's any chance it gets as close as Virginia has gotten. But I do think Trump will finish there better than he did last time, maybe a lot better than he did last time, for two reasons. Number one, he's just faring better this time around. The economy is always the number one issue, no matter what people or polls say. It's always the economy. That's in Trump's favor. And then he's doing so much better with Latinos in other areas. I think even nationwide, he's doing much better with Latinos, and that has to help. I mean, there's no way he cannot benefit from that in New Mexico. But no, I don't think he can close that quite as much as he did Virginia.
So, last thing here, I just want to talk very quickly about the Senate races. Those looking surprisingly good around the country at the moment. Eric Hovde very slightly trailing Tammy Baldwin, tracking with Trump in Wisconsin. I talked to, again, with Tyler and James, who I talked to earlier, were very optimistic about Hovde's chances. In Virginia, Tim Kaine leads Cal by 4%. That one is going to be a loss, but not by the 10-point margin I was anticipating. Dave McCormick currently leads Bob Casey in Pennsylvania. In Ohio, Bernie Moreno, at this point, Ohio's been called for Trump forever. Moreno leads by 5. We've flipped Ohio, so that's not even a question.
Yeah, I think we flip Ohio and we flip Montana. I'm not convinced about Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
I'm not
Montana.
convinced about Wisconsin.
He's
But I
already
do
out
think there are options. I think there are possibilities for sure.
Yeah. Ted Cruz has not been called in Texas yet, which is a travesty. That's
other outlets have called Ted Cruz. That one's done.
Yeah, that one is done. Michigan, even Mike Rogers trailing Alyssa Slotkin only lightly. So those races are very interesting. I do think it's very actually even in New Mexico, Nella Dominici, who is obviously the daughter of the very popular governor there, former governor, she's only trailing by 2. But last thing is in Arizona, it's just incredible where Trump is tied. Carrie Lake is consistently trailing him earlier by 8 points, now by 6 points. I mean, I just cannot believe how badly Carrie Lake is performing compared to Trump in Arizona.
I'm not surprised by that. Yeah, I don't think Carrie Lake wins.
Yeah,
But I do think she comes close this time. But
I think
remember,
she's very close
she had to
to
overcome a big deficit. I mean, 4 weeks ago, she was down 11, 12 points and
So
left for dead. So again, I mean, we could be surprised if Trump does better than expected in Arizona. His coattails could pull her across the finish line, but I don't think she quite gets there.
we now have, and last thing, North Carolina rated likely R by New York Times, though they've not called it yet. Georgia rated very likely R. New Mexico rated only lean Democrat. Arizona now rated lean Republican. Wisconsin, Pennsylvania still listed as toss-ups. Michigan back to a toss-up from New York Times. So basically, it's shaping up tonight for the GOP, for Trump. But yeah, do you think we talked about the Senate, talked about the presidency. Do you think they'll control the House coming out of it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll control the House, no problem. Trump is doing too well for us to lose the House. He would have to underperform badly somewhere to cost us races that we should win. We're not going to lose hardly any House races that we should have won. Yeah,
Yeah.
we will control both houses of Congress. I'm certain of that. Presidency's up in the air, but it definitely leans Trump at this point, too.
Okay, doke. Very good. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk. I appreciate it. And I'll go ahead and
Absolutely.
let you
Thanks
go.
for having me on.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yep.
I'll
Yes,
talk
sir.
to you later.
Yep.
Bye-bye. Okay, so that was my dad, Tim Boyer, giving some very optimistic news. I was kind of starting to see some of that same stuff, but he has more of the kind of on-the-ground insight than I do. We're going to go ahead and wrap up the stream here, folks. Things are looking good for us. I think the momentum's in our direction. I don't think that's really going to change for a while. I think any more stuff can be covered in the morning. I'm going to go ahead and take down the ticker here and let you see the final results, because I think, like I said, momentum's in our direction. Anything else that happens will probably be late in the game shenanigans. I think I can cover in the morning. So we're going to probably go ahead and end the stream tonight here. Again, so far we have 198 electoral votes called for Trump, 112 for Harris, but that is not counting North Carolina and Georgia have not been called yet. Trump is going to win them both. Things are looking good for him in the Rust Belt and in the Sun Belt, including in Arizona. So we'll see. Of course, they haven't called Kansas either. That one's going to go for Trump. So in the presidency, we're looking good. In the Senate, currently 48 for the GOP, 36 for the Dems. And it seems very likely we're going to flip, or Ohio should be called. That's 49. New Mexico actually has just been called for Martin Heinrich against Nella Dominici. Ted Cruz should be called in Texas. Most outlets have. So we're at 50 seats there if you count Texas and Ohio. Nebraska will put us at 51 because we will win that. I'm pretty confident. And Montana will put us at 52. I think we'll win that as well. And then Wisconsin, perhaps Hovde pulls out, maybe even in Michigan or Pennsylvania. McCormick doing surprisingly well there. And then the House right now, 137 for the GOP, 91 for the Dems. We'll see what happens. It does seem we're going to control both houses. At least that's the political prognostication and the general consensus. So thank you, folks, for watching this stream. It's been just shy of 4 hours we've been streaming. What a way to do the first ever Fight and Revive live stream. I appreciate it so much, y'all. Thank you very much. As always, trust in the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And remember, even if things do take an unfortunate turn here, remember the promise of Romans 8:28, and we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose. Appreciate you all. Thank you for the support. Have a good evening. God bless America.